how do I want to say this? Um, did you guys follow what I was saying earlier about like
The
people having to run on the bank?
All
Yeah.
right, hold on one. All right, hold on one sec. Non-fun, you can jump in wherever you want. Wherever you
yeah,
can.
sure. I was just gonna back up some of what he's saying, like but the issue with banks, and you can read some of Ben Bernanke's book where he mentions things like this, is that they're based on faith in the industry, and there are like types of panics that don't just like cut off the firms that are inefficient or firms that did genuinely do reckless spending, but they're kind of contagious and they spill over to firms that are like genuinely productive, genuinely useful, but there's just a lot of panic in the industry, and we're concerned about the negative effects of that. And that's what the Federal Reserve to some degree seeks to resolve through the quote unquote bailouts.
Yeah, but I'm just concerned that, like, yeah, technically, if you were able to demonstrate that these very specific scenarios, there's no harm done by essentially just giving them loans to recoup, like an example of a bank run. I'm still concerned because that kind of opens the door for like a lot more nefarious situations where the government is enmeshed with these banks and corporations and essentially deciding who to help and who not to help.
Well,
So,
speaking
so
of
it's
nefarious situations, that's the biggest problem in the banking industry as a whole, is you can do $1 billion in fraud, pay 500 million in fines, and still run away with $500 million and have no other penalties for it.
so
That's
Gain, I
Yeah,
think
that's what they did. That's what they did. No major Wall Street bank received. No CEO of any major Wall Street bank received any time for any of it.
So
Well,
I was just gonna
there
say it.
was
I
one.
would prefer to just
I
get
well
rid
forget.
of
because
the
they
Federal
commit a
Reserve.
crime. You
Yeah,
don't go to
so
jail if you don't commit a crime.
I forget who it was. There was one person who went to jail for like the 2008 crisis. He might not have been a CEO of like a major Wall Street bank specifically, but there was at least one individual who did go to jail for the actions of his firm in 2008. But like they also, they like pay that money back, right? And there were banks that went under, like Lehman Brothers went under, Bear Stearns went under,
Yeah,
right?
Lehman
Like,
Brothers was kind of the big spark. So Gain, to address what you were saying, banks, in order for banks to receive a bailout from like the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, they have to actually meet certain criteria. Like they have to be a certain size in order for them to do that. If like your local mom and pop bank down the road, goes bankrupt, nobody really cares because they're not as large as like Bank of America. If Bank of America goes bankrupt, if they go under, then that's like financial
But
Armageddon.
and they have to
Yeah,
have
so
good
I
collateral. They
get
have to have
that.
good collateral.
your
Hold
money
on, hold on, hold
is
on.
said mom and
Just
pop
because
bank
it
is
was
still FDIC insured. So if you're
just
considering that a bailout, that's FDIC insurance. They all have that.
No,
as
So,
okay,
FDIC insurance is different. FDIC insurance is
just
for you as an individual. This is for the banks being able. This is for the bank as an institution.
so the
so I think
government failed us in the regulatory controls on the bank, and I'll agree that it was systemically necessary to bail them out, even though you hate that word. But that
Jesus
doesn't
Christ,
mean
we have a
it
cat
wasn't.
in heat.
That's not
Oh,
me.
sorry. Can you guys hear my
But
cat? Yeah,
that
he was
doesn't
angry at me.
doesn't and just because it wasn't criminally chargeable as fraudulent doesn't mean it wasn't ethically fraudulent as shit, TJ.
Wait, what was fraudulent?
I said just because it wasn't criminally chargeable as fraud or prosecutional discretion not to prosecute fraud doesn't mean ethically that what was done to the American people in layering those portfolios wasn't fraud.
I mean,
I
so in
think
terms
I
of
think
the
you're
Uh,
yeah, I think you make it a lot less likely to happen again if you don't bail them out and if you don't insure them.
well, that was the idea
He
behind.
could nationalize them. He
No,
could
let's not do
nationalize
that.
the
No, let's
banking.
just
Yeah,
not.
no,
Let's just not.
quiet, Gain. I wasn't finished. The actual proper response to 2008 and
Oh,
the 1930s was to nationalize the banking system. To profit off of people trying to house their money safely is fucking criminal. It should have been
What?
fucking. Yes, they were also, you know what? I don't
Wait,
want to
wait, no,
buy
no,
this.
no.
Like, oh, they were
Merely.
doing so many shoddy shit. They were fucking. I watched. What was that? What was that movie that they did? The Big Short. I watched The Big Short, and
Oh,
then
oh
I looked
yeah.
into it and
Okay.
found out everything in that was fucking correct. They were actually going and signing people up for loans without their
great. Have
signature.
you
They were
read?
forging signatures. They were doing all of these horrible things. So yes, they committed crimes, and the action should have been, okay, people don't know how to play with money correctly. You don't get to fucking play with it at all.
Whoa,
Just like
Yeah,
you
but
would
the
a
sorry.
response isn't
Whoa,
to burn
time
the
out.
whole thing to the
The
ground.
government was actively encouraging financial institutions to give loans to people who couldn't afford loans.
How are they
The
doing
low
that? How
income,
are they encouraging
the
them?
low income loans.
Yeah, low income loans, but they were falsifying debt to income ratios. So they were going beyond what the government even encouraged.
Yeah. So a few things. One, I just wanted. You said you read or you watched The Big Short. I'm just curious. Have you read anything by Ben Bernanke or like anything by Scott Sumner?
I don't know if
anything
she
by
knows who exactly. I don't
Yeah.
think she knows who.
No, I
These
said
are
I
mixed
didn't hear what he
economy
said.
guys?
I didn't hear what he said.
I'm asking if you read anything by people I would say are like economists, people like Scott Sumner or Ben Bernanke. These are two people who commented on a 2008 recession a decent amount.
No, I didn't read anybody. I didn't read anything by the people who were in the film. But I mean, the internet's free, bro. You can look all this shit up.
Yeah,
can I ask you a question?
I would encourage you to look some of those things up. So I don't think anyone denies that like there were certain individuals who did commit.
So then why are you
crimes,
trying to call me
right?
out on it? If no one denies it, then why are you trying to call me out on it?
I think
right
the
now?
overall picture you're painting is misleading, and that's not contradicted by the fact that there are certain
You just
individuals
said
who
you
did
didn't.
crime.
Oh my god.
So I'm sure that there were some individuals who did crime. I'm sure that there were some individuals who did crimes and got away with it. At the same time, there were firms that were either allowed to go under or couldn't be saved. Like, for example, Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers probably should have been saved, but just because that there are some firms engaging in bad practices, that ends up spilling over to a lot of other firms that are engaging in good practices. And when the credit market gets kind of messed up, that messes up other businesses' ability to do a bunch of other things, right? So there's like a lot of general concerns here. There were reasons to intervene in the credit market, and the ways we did so, I don't think are all entirely characterizable as like a general insane bailout, right? Because for example, the TARP money, the troubled asset relief payments, that was all paid back with interest to the U.S. government, right?
Okay, so it's not even necessarily about the individuals, right? Like, yes, those individual people who are forging signatures, they should have been held liable. But it's also about the extreme pressure that was put on them from the banks that they worked under, where they felt that they had to meet certain quotas or they were going to lose their job. It's multifaceted. At the end of the day, again, my original statement still stands. Banks should be nationalized. They should not be private entities.
Let me ask you a
whatsoever.
question. Hold on, stop 1 second. Let me ask you a question, B. Do you want Donald Trump controlling the financial system in this country?
No, the people who controlled the
Okay,
financial system
that's
in this
why it
country
shouldn't be
fucking crashed it in
nationalized.
2008.
That's why
I don't
it
care what
shouldn't
you
be
say.
nationalized.
They crashed it in 2008.
You don't think that
I have
somebody
proof
getting
behind you.
don't
You are
think-
saying
hold
you
on.
are
You
saying
don't-
something
you don't
very
think that-
hypothetical,
you don't
and
think
I'm
that
giving
a
you proof.
politician. You don't think that a politician like Donald Trump getting in control of the financial system on a national level could have consequences? Are you out of your mind?
No, I don't think that he would be in charge of it. Obviously, you wouldn't put it in the hands of the executive. That's fucking wild, TJ. You know a little bit more about American politics than that. You know what I'm talking about. Stop being
how would you avoid
disingenuous.
that?
Yeah, you wait 30 days for every little thing for Congress to vote. Like, how would they even work?
When I'm saying, how would you avoid putting it in the hands of the executive? Unfortunately,
That's what I was saying.
just the way the Constitution is structured and due to the nature of the Supreme Court right now, like Congress can't even impose for cause requirements on Trump being able to fire people besides the Federal Reserve. But they only carved out the Federal Reserve because the consequences of not allowing that for the Federal Reserve would just be like probably quite catastrophic. So I think you wouldn't get the same treatment there from any other industry, even if it was in the banking sector.
And that wasn't consistent. That was it seemed extremely utilitarian.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't seem like that you could structure it in such a way that Trump wouldn't have control.
That's like the smallest problem. The biggest problem is she wants to nationalize the bank. She doesn't understand that like the government never has like incentive structure for profit, so they're never actually going to end up putting like imposing policy, which ends up working out in the long term.
I mean, I
no.
share those general
No
concerns.
Wait. Explain that.
Explain what?
Why.
Specifically what? Why the government doesn't have incentive for profit?
No. Explain why that would matter. Explain why you cannot run a bank without an incentive for profit.
Because then you'd not be going for this. You'd have other incentives besides for making money. So
what are the other incentives?
I don't know, corruption, fraud, nepotism.
Oh my God.
How about simply helping the American people?
What do you mean by helping the American people? You're saying these are like buzzwords.
What is the purpose of government?
The purpose of government is to protect our rights.
Okay.
As outlined by the Constitution.
The rights would also include promoting the general welfare, correct?
No, incorrect.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is in the fucking Constitution.
Where in the Constitution?
It's in the preamble.
Yeah, what does it say?
It says promote the general welfare.
It says promote the general. Wait, hold on. Read the entire.
Specifically, it says
read
that.
The entire quote
verbatim.
For me. Read out the entire quote.
You go read the quote.
You're the one who brought it up.
You've never read the You've never read the Constitution. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's because what I think is happening here is you ensure the welfare by protecting said rights.
That's wild. You don't even know what the fuck you're arguing for right now.
You're the one who brought it up, so you'd actually have to demonstrate it and provide the evidence. But secondly, yeah, you have to ensure the welfare by protecting the rights that were laid out in the Constitution.
I think that would also include protecting citizens from corrupt business practices, right? Like protecting citizens from powerful corporations.
I'm sorry, but nationalizing banks is absolutely what we have to fucking do.
Okay, so I
at least he's not pretending.
I think the outcomes of that would not be good, and I'm more interested in that conversation, to be clear.
Why?
But
why would the outcomes be bad?
I don't.
So I'll get to that. But I think it. Do you understand, Mojo? Why it's? Do you think it's unreasonable to say that, like, at least a sort of Jeffersonian idea of what he was saying when he wrote down to promote the general welfare in conjunction with the rest of the preamble rights, which are all like negative rights, why that probably is not properly interpreted.
That they're negative rights, by the way.
That at least Jefferson's idea was that it was
I disagree that they're
rights.
Negative rights. I disagree that they're negative rights. I think they are absolutely positive rights. I think rights don't exist without government. I think rights are created by governments. They are codified by governments, and then they are protected by governments.
Doesn't matter.
Everything that they wrote down didn't exist until they wrote it down. So everything in that Constitution is a positive right. These are the rights that we have as human beings that live in the United States of America.
Okay, so
yeah, but it doesn't matter. They were codified already.
I want to be clear, right? Like I don't have a conception of like rights intrinsically existing. Like I'm a consequentialist, but I do think that like the sort of Jeffersonian, Madisonian ideas that influence the Declaration and the Constitution.
Absolutely positive. They didn't exist. They didn't exist before the Constitution. Then
they're still axiomatically like given by God. They're still axiomatically objective.
There is no God. There is no fucking God.
It doesn't matter. Within the Constitution, it's axiomatically objective.
There is no axiom of a right. There is no fucking axiom of a right, because if there were, then every fucking human being on the planet would have it. They don't. Now,
the Constitution axiomatically lays out rights.
I'm sorry, but they're not negative rights. They're not negative rights. They're absolutely
that doesn't even
positive
follow.
rights.
Hold, that doesn't even follow, because just because people aren't protecting your rights doesn't mean you don't have those rights intrinsically, right?
I'm telling you that in the state of nature, there are no rights.
And the Constitution disagrees with you, because the Constitution lays out axiomatic objective rights.
Under that logic, there's no morality.
Morality doesn't exist without a fucking state either.
Yeah, obviously, he's a relativist.
Back to the
Constitution. The Constitution, though, isn't relative.
What's up, North? Welcome back.
The Constitution lays out axiomatic objective God-given rights. So regardless of whether or not you agree with that,
I'm sorry. If God
I got
like
triggered
rights,
by this right before I started streaming. So
these were men that laid out.
Tell it to the founders, but at the end of the day, the founders
disagree with
God
the founders as well as you.
It doesn't matter. The rights are codified in the Constitution, and they are axiomatically objective rights given by God.
I understand that they're codified, and one of them is promote the general welfare.
No, you promote the
Yes,
general
it is.
welfare. No, you promote the general welfare by protecting the rights. You don't promote the general welfare by doing whatever you want, right? There's still
Okay, you
guardrails
have
and
the right to
parameters.
life, liberty. You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I'm
Correct.
sorry that the government has responsibility to make sure that you fucking live.
No, because you can't actually pursue these rights if you're violating the rights of other people, and you have the right to your own property. So that's inherently wrong.
What are you talking about? What does it have to do with nationalized banks?
Because you're taking away people's money. You're forcing them to
I'm not
sell their
taking
assets,
money.
their property,
No.
their assets, and then
the pursuit of
definitely
happiness
are.
you
Taking
recognize
them
was kind of the implication of that is property rights, right? That is kind of that's the Jeffersonian way of saying property rights.
Yeah, you're taking away people's rights.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are.
You're protecting people.
Okay, so I'm going to start a bank under your little nationalized
But are you
economy.
saying
What
that
are you going to do about it?
privatized banks are taking
What-
people's property?
What are you going to do about it?
Of
About
what?
what?
I'm going to let's make you king and you decide to nationalize the banking system. I don't care. I'm going to start my own bank whether you like it or not. What are you going to do about it?
I would
Put you in
consider that black
jail.
market and put you in jail. Yeah, you would be
Thank
black
you.
market.
There we go.
And you're going to go to jail. Yeah.
There we go. So that's
Just
how
like
it
a
violates.
random guy can't provide
That's,
you with
States
fucking
that's how it
electricity, right?
violates. That is how it
States,
violates
it doesn't
rights.
violate your right, because if you break the law and you murder somebody, you go to jail too.
Yeah,
That's not
the law can say,
breaking
yeah,
your rights.
just get in the boxcar, Mojo. It's the law.
Yeah,
That's how
I don't
stupid that
understand.
sounds.
No, this is how stupid it sounds. Okay, so if there's, a police force, right? And I decide that I want to be a vigilante, is the state taking away my rights to be a fucking vigilante just because they have a sanctioned police force? This is a ridiculous argument.
Well, I think part of the purpose of the state is to have a monopoly on violence. But regardless of that, so I want to make it clear.
Are you an
like
are you an anarcho-capitalist? Is that what you are?
No. And I was just about to say, I want to make it clear, I disagree with Jefferson, right? There's a I don't know if any of you guys know who this guy is, but there's a guy called Ryan Malay who is a big natural law guy, loves Jefferson, loves all this stuff or whatever. I've had a lot of disagreements with him. I've debated him about this before. I disagree that these are intrinsically existing rights and such, and that we can't ever make trade-offs, and we shouldn't have positive rights, right? I don't agree with that view, but I do think that what the framers were referring to when they wrote things like the general welfare was not so broad that it would encompass a nationalizing the banking system. That you might be able to still have a national bank via the Commerce Clause, but that is not understood. Typically the general welfare clause not understood to encompass any government program that might help the people's welfare.
Are you creative? Are you a creative person? Do you paint? Do you fucking think?
Not.
Outside of the box?
I do think.
You're telling me the government couldn't come up with a nationalized banking system? You're telling me that there's just no fucking way that they can do it?
I don't.
No.
So we're not saying they couldn't do it.
I don't understand. I don't understand how you get out of the fucking logic conundrum that you put yourself in when all you do is bitch about what the government does and how they do it, and then want to give more power to the government simultaneously.
Who bitches about what the government does?
You
every day. Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that.
Wait, that's not the government. That's Donald Trump.
It is the government. That's
Oh
the
my
fucking
God, did you
executive
really
of
Wait,
the government.
okay,
No,
but the entire
that's a
reason we
specific
got
person.
on this train in the first place, though, is because I think TJ said if you were going to nationalize the banks, wouldn't that imply that Trump is going to have some amount of control over them, and that would lead to bad outcomes? So I do think you have to address the fact that people like Trump might have control at one day.
Having a nationalized bank, having a nationalized
separate branch of
But
government.
you need a constitutional
I'm telling you
amendment to do
right
that.
now. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's why we're all living in La La Land right now. I would create a whole entire separate branch of government that is similar to other branches, but is completely independent from Congress and the executive.
So you
It's
want
simple.
to change
You
the
need a
constitution?
constitutional
Almost
amendment.
like
Yeah,
the
you
current
do an
system, right?
amendment. God, we change the Constitution all the fucking time.
Yeah, but
No,
this would
the
fundamentally
last
shift
one
entire
passed in the
When was
19
the last time we changed the Constitution?
Guys, hold on, stop, guys. Did you hear what she just said?
We changed the Constitution
She wants to
last time.
create a banking system that is completely separate from Congress and the executive.
It's called the Federal Reserve.
It's called the Federal Reserve B. That's what we currently have right now.
Do they hold all of our money in Like, do they
Yes.
house my
Well,
money?
Kind of.
for
They
when I
hold
get-
banks
Yes.
money. They hold banks money. They
Okay,
hold the
then
bank.
transfer it to there. Transfer
we
to
could-
there. You
Transfer
figure it
what
out.
to there?
We could use them. We could use them as a federal bank system.
What the
They
Federal
kind of
Reserve
are. They
does
hold the
is make
treasury's money,
poorer.
right? And they hold the bank's reserves because they pay interest on reserves. So banks hold reserves at the Fed.
No, they kind of don't.
And
they
they
either do or
lend
they
us
don't.
money.
They
You're
don't.
denying
lend
that they
the
pay
They don't
nation.
interest
hold all
on.
of. They don't hold the
Sure,
entire country's
sure.
money. Like, come on.
One person. Hey, you guys.
I'm not saying that.
What
I'm saying
What
they
the
hold bank
Federal Reserve
reserves.
is best at is making you poorer.
So
Most are dead.
I disagree with that, but just to be clear, so there are like the Federal Reserve it holds bank reserves in that the banks money, the M1 money that banks have is kept at the Federal Reserve sometimes because the Federal Reserve will pay them interest for keeping that money at the Federal Reserve's account. So that is anything that does happen. And then there's a broader definition of money that includes bank deposits, and that is like, quote unquote, our money. But these are two different levels, if you will, of money.
They also tack you through inflation on a daily fucking basis, i.e., making you poorer.
Fucking brainless libertarian slop.
That's exactly what happens.
So I
Verbatim.
want to get to that stuff because I also I think that's a flawed understanding. But before we get to that stuff, I just want to I want to hear from everyone's mouths. Okay, I want an acknowledgement that the Federal Reserve made a profit off of quantitative easing during 2008. B, that the banks paid all the TARP money back to the U.S. government, and C, that there were like lending requirements and a bunch of other requirements for like collateral when the Federal Reserve intervened in 2008 to save individual banks. Do we agree that those things happened?
They happen.
That's too many questions. I didn't even hear. I wasn't even paying
3
attention
questions.
They all happen, but I still don't think I still think the Federal Reserve should never have been established.
Wait,
that's a separate conversation.
That has nothing to do with this.
No, because I thought his point was that it was a good thing.
No,
that they
he's
did
talking
so.
about the bank. He's talking about the
So-
bailouts.
so-
That's all he's
Yeah,
talking
specifically the bailout, as in the Federal Reserve having the power to bail us out and directly intervening in the economy.
Well, it is my view that many of their actions in 2008 were good. And in fact, I think a problem is that they didn't go far enough sometimes. I think they probably should have done more quantitative easing. They should have done more intervention, although in fairness, they were limited by the requirements placed on them. What I'm disputing right now is what I originally got triggered by, which is I think Mojo and B and potentially some other people saying that like this was just like a massive bailout to the banks and everyone made it out rich and the working people suffered. I think that the banks, there were good reasons for intervening. The banks pay the money back for the most part. They had good collateral that the Federal Reserve used, and that stabilizing the banking sector it also helps everyone overall. So that's my contention right now.
I agree. I actually agree with that. And here's where Stephen kind of has me mistaken, and probably TJ and Steve as well. I agree that the bank should have been bailed out. But I agree,
What's up,
I
Dylan
also
Thomas? Welcome back.
want to make the concession that the people who lost their homes because they were given shoddy loans should have also been bailed out. The American taxpayer should have also been bailed out.
Why should people who were given loans be bailed out of those loans when they couldn't make the payments?
Why should banks who
do you
sell
really wanna
shoddy...
do?
Because
What?
you're not.
Wait, no, let me finish. Let me finish. Why should banks who decide to give shoddy fucking bonds, who decide to, sorry, my kids are fucking going crazy, who decide to give these shitty bonds, who decide to forge signatures, who decide to do all these things, be able to do that?
because this is where you're missing the point.
Weren't able
Because
to do that.
Steve, hold on one second.
It's just weird
Because
that you
banks-
hate
Oh
people,
my
but you love these nationalized or you like these like private entities. Like
True.
they literally why do you hate your own people, TJ, so much?
So I want to answer her question really quick. So B, what you're not understanding is that it wasn't just the banks that made bad loans that had to get bailed out. It was the banks that were operating responsibly. As I said earlier, if there is a panic, then a bank can't handle the run on bank.
And more a big issue more generally was that
They
Not
created the problem
negate.
and then benefited from the solution. They literally created the problem, then benefited from the problem that they created. They had no consequence.
there was no
In fact,
benefit.
they actually
There's
made
no
more money during that time
There's no
than they did.
benefit
And
to
the
a
same
bank
thing
having
happened
a
with
bank run.
C19.
Hey, can you let her finish?
Thank you, Mojo. So they literally created the problem, then benefited from the solution, then did the same thing during C19. And this is the most billionaires we've ever seen in the economy, is because of these situations where they benefit from the problem. I'm not saying they created C19, but they definitely created 2008 crisis. And again, they benefited off of it. They found a way to maximize their profits from it. So again, for you to simp for the corporation and not the people who deserve the bailout, not the banks, that's the problem.
You're just like
The government created the 2008 problem.
Okay.
Banks created that problem.
The government created that problem.
No, it was a mix, I suppose. But you're saying that taking regulation away created the problem. You get that doesn't go in line with your libertarian philosophy, right?
It wasn't taking regulation away. What regulation was taken away?
It was the regulation on what mortgages were required in order to be given.
And what did the government do?
The government took those regulations away in the late 1990s, and then it was expanded even further in the 2000s under W to make sure that, and then the government actually created a system to where they kind of required people to get loans.
There you go.
Required to bank, but either way, they had to get rid of the regulations on the banks to start out with before that actually happened.
Sure, but then the government decided that we needed a program for equality in loans and then forced banks to give loans to people that probably shouldn't have had them.
Sure, but getting rid of the regulations in the first place is what that allowed that to happen.
I guess, but
so it's a combination of those things. But I just think that's wild for a libertarian to get pissed off about getting rid of regulations.
Well, I'm not mad that they got rid of the regulations. I'm mad that the government turned around and used that in their favor to force banks to give loans to people with unsatisfactory credit scores.
ARMs were created before they passed the legislation that made them give out loans that were unsatisfactory. ARMs existed before that. No, ARMs are the things that we're talking about. Those are the things that actually crash the system, because the interest rates were rising so much after a 3 to 5 year ARM that nobody could afford their fucking mortgage after that, and everything was getting foreclosed on.
So I think that the issue is, and this ties back to, I think, some of Peg's points too, is that the issue is broader than just like the housing market and the housing bubble. I think there were like a number of errors from the Federal Reserve that led to, in fairness, in some cases, the Federal Reserve's hands were tied, that led to the sort of financial crisis spilling over into like a much broader recession. One of those issues was that banks, even responsible banks, used mortgage-backed securities as collateral. So because mortgage-backed securities turned out to be not the good collateral that they thought they were, a lot of even responsible banks were in trouble, and it made sense for the Fed to intervene in the banking industry, in the credit market, because there's just no, like, this is a Bernanke quote for you, there's no sustained recovery when the credit market is in crisis, right? So, it would be my contention that intervening in a credit market like help the people. So I think it's unfair to say that like we just like hate the people and everything, because I think it helped the people, and the banks also like pay that money back and stuff still. So
well, there's a lot of dominoes that fell in the subsequent years. But the first one that started it was shitty policy under the Clinton administration to create wealth equality by giving loans to people who they knew couldn't pay those loans back. Or at least they knew a percentage of them couldn't pay those loans back. And they did it anyways. And that's the first domino that created that whole fucking problem.
Right. Obviously, I think that was like like an issue, like an above zero issue. But I think like more generally, kind of if I think if the path of NGDP growth had been kept stable, you wouldn't have seen like the broader recession you did see. You would have just seen probably the housing market experience some amount of negative churn or whatever. And we actually did see the housing market collapse like before the broader recession hit, right? So like we saw unemployment only went up from like 4% to 6%. It was like the broader financial
Are
crisis.
you like downplaying the 2008 housing crisis? Like, are you being for real right now? Like,
Okay.
do you guys are just like a whole bunch of serfs?
True. I
Like,
want
please,
you to
my
like.
lord, one
no
more
one,
shilling, my lord, so I can simp for the banking system. Like, what the fuck is this? This
no
is so
one's downplaying
weird.
that. But what started the downfall
No, you
was
are,
that
and you're actually placing the blame away from the major banks, and you're putting it on the backs of people in the government, and that's just
because
not what the
that's
fuck
No.
happened.
it's exactly
Wait.
what happened. That's exactly how it
Yeah.
started.
I'm gonna
Wait.
agree with
I
him.
want to be clear. I'm
There's
not
gonna be
downplaying.
it's a combination. It's a combination of a whole bunch of different things. B. I'm gonna agree with him to a certain extent that there was bad policy that was made. There was also regulations that were taken off that shouldn't have been taken off, and there was a lot of banks that took advantage of this shit. And I don't remember who was it that created the mortgage-backed securities and then rated them AAA or whatever the fuck it was. Somebody was
I forget.
responsible for that shit too.
But also
That's
that
actually-
accounting that accounting firm went bankrupt, did they not? That was another consequence, by the way. It didn't like one of the big 5 accounting firms go bankrupt from 2008?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true too.
Yeah, Enron
So
or
it was
something
a
like that.
culmination of a whole bunch of fucking bad people doing bad things, whether they meant to or not, whether they meant to harm anybody or not, is another story. But there was a lot of things that played into that whole thing.
There's kind of a
I'm not
debate.
going to say that the policy was designed to hurt people, but they had to know that the banks were going to take a hit when the banks were required to give out all these mortgages, and they knew that these people weren't going to fucking pay them.
Yeah, but then they didn't have to put them in AAA or whatever it was, AAA A-rated mortgage-backed securities either. They didn't have to put them in those, which caused a lot of it as well. So you could have put them in different kinds of securities that people may or may not have still bought at a percentage that was acceptable. I'm not sure, but in all honesty, the government was trying to give more people homes, more poor people homes, and the banks took advantage of that by setting up arms and then getting the houses foreclosed on.
Yes,
Sure,
and
but
for me,
as
that
a
is the
result,
100%. Like that is the fault of the banks. It is not the fault of the governmental system trying to incentivize banks to give loans out to people
didn't
who normally wouldn't
wait a
qualify for
minute.
loans
They
because
didn't
they don't have like credit history or something
They
like that,
did
right?
not
Like that's
incentivize
originally
them.
stop.
They forced them. Those are two different things.
Okay,
Steve, stop.
forced is whatever. Forced is whatever. That's beside the point.
It's very different.
This program was designed. One reason, like one example of why the government designed this program is because it's notoriously hard for people without credit to apply for the biggest loan of their life and get approved. So this program was made for people who had lower credit scores or who had been working on their credit and consistently paying their shit off. This was completely taken advantage of by the banks. They consistently were giving predatory and deceptive mortgage loans.
So I also
Like
I hate to break it to you guys.
they were giving
fundamentally
higher
misunderstand
cost
it.
All right,
loans.
no, you fundamentally misunderstand because you keep saying force. No bank was forced to give out a fucking mortgage. You're full of shit.
The government changed the best incentive or the best thing to do for them on the margin, right?
They definitely pressured the banks legally.
Yeah.
What do you mean pressured? What does that mean? There was no force done there. The mortgage companies decided to hand out these subprime loans, and they did so knowing that it was going to get foreclosed on after 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, but with the Community Reinvestment Act, they were definitely pushing the banks to.
They were pushing them. They were giving them subsidies in order to give out subprime mortgages.
Yeah, which changes their. So I don't know why the word force is necessary or whatever.
Yeah,
that would change the best, the best thing for them to do on the margin, which is probably.
I'll concede on that the word forced is slightly hyperbolic. But at the end of the day, what you did was ended up taking the homes away from 10 times as many people as you ever gave them to in the first place, and fucking up the whole system because that's what government does.
The banks could have done it better.
No.
They could have done it better. They could have given out better loans. They could have done it for different homes. They could have done it in a lot of different ways, but they chose to do it the way they did, and these people got foreclosed on. And that was part of the beginning of the fall, I suppose. But there was a lot of other things that played in there too.
So
And
if
a
I
whole
could,
lot of other
Right,
people
I
got
think-
subsequently closed on because the economy crashed at the same time and unemployment went through the roof.
so if I
Well-
could, if I could nerd out here for a second on just like the investment world, there's
Lord
kind of-
God.
there's kind of two types of investing. There's quant investing, where you look
Give
for
me
mathematical patterns
quant
and
investing.
price,
Let's
price
go. Give me
movements.
one second, y'all. I got
And there's
my cat is
fundamental
saying great. I
investing, where
think
you
he
look
wants
at the
water.
underlying financials
What's up, Curly Bear?
of
By the way,
like,
welcome
the
back.
company or the economy or whatever. And there's kind of a saying in investing that says the fundamentals will always play out, because eventually they do. With the rating agencies, I read a paper not too long ago. The rating agencies were looking at just patterns with housing and default rates, and they projected it to continue at the rate that it was going. They didn't look at the underlying fundamentals. And so they weren't taking into account like adjustable rate mortgages where the interest rate was going to constantly go up. And they didn't take into account the fact that people weren't going to be able to afford those. And so that's kind of where the rating agencies got into trouble. They were using kind of quant forecasting or mathematical forecasting, and they weren't looking at the underlying fundamentals. So just a side note.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who
It was the bank's fault.
Who in the fuck would ever accept an adjustable rate mortgage to begin with? That's absurd.
I don't know, but
Because
you
they
know
were
what?
making false promises.
Yeah, I played a broker for a short period of time in there, and it felt really fucking disgusting to do that. I did set up some of these subprime mortgages, some of these ARMs. I did set some of those up, and honestly, it wasn't just new homes that were this was being done on. It was refis.
Yes.
Because interest rates were pretty high before the refis, and we were able to give them a 3-year lower rate. But after the 3 years, they ended up paying a higher rate than they were paying originally if they couldn't refinance within that 3 years.
And a lot of the
Why in
stipulations
the
were
fuck
they
would
let you
anyone
refinance after that 3 years, Mojo. In fact, that's how my mom lost her house, is through a refi.
Yeah, I did that for a short period of time, and yeah, I felt like shit doing it, and I didn't do it very long.
Okay, so
You
so
guys
I think
made great money
I don't know
though.
why anyone would ever accept a non-fixed rate loan on fucking anything.
Yeah, but that now, but they didn't know that then because housing prices didn't increase like that, or like not housing prices, but the interest rates on homes never raised over a certain amount. That's why they were like, yeah, even if it does, it'll go up by a percentage or two, but it's not going to be anything crazy. And it did. My mom's $3,000 a month payment, or I think then it was actually less. I think it was closer to 2,000, went all the way to 5. So again, like they were told, like, because of the trends in the market, it never went that crazy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, overnight, it does.
Well,
And then that's how people are losing their homes.
The bad part about this too is that the banks actually gave mortgage brokers a front end and a back end incentive. So the front end being the rate, the front end being that just getting the thing traded or sold or whatever, and then the back end being that the higher the rate you get an extra kickback from the bank as well to actually sell that mortgage. So you are incentivized as a broker to actually give the highest rate you possibly could and
true,
still
chat.
have them say yes.
And screw people over. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Steve?
Okay.
I think he was ordering food. I don't know.
but
It's like getting
I don't
out. We're
think-
closing at 9:30. Just to let you know, Steve.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
trying to get food, and apparently they're fucking closed. That's cool.
Just an important point here. With the 2008 financial crisis, the crisis wasn't really the housing market. The housing market was just kind of a spark. The crisis was the financial panic.
Yeah, exactly. That's what when I was accused of downplaying it earlier, right? My point was just simply that, like, if you look at like unemployment, for example, and the housing sector collapsed, it did not go up very much from like January 2006 when the housing construction peaked all the way up until April 2008. Unemployment rose from 4.7% to 5%. So like this was and that's still within like a full employment like range. Like, but I have like differing views on sort of the broader cause of the crisis, and I think that there were a variety of like reasonable views on exactly what caused it. But I'm open to talking about that. But right now, I just don't understand. I feel like I've not gotten a proper response to many of the points I've raised, because you guys like keep saying this thing that like there were no consequences, that these people made it out richer than ever. And I feel like I provided things that suggest that is simply not true. And
They did. I
Okay.
can't prove that they were prosecuted if they were not prosecuted. How can I prove that to you?
Hold on. So there was, I know,
named
one
one,
person
though.
prosecuted, but no
Right,
one
but
disagrees. What?
Yeah, you named one, and you even admitted though that that's the only one that you know offhand. That just
Wait,
like
I'm
you
not
even
denying.
said, well,
I'm not
At
denying.
least they
So
got one.
right. So what I'm saying is, I mentioned that one earlier, but that's I believe that is basically the only one. But no one is denying, and I said this earlier, that like some people committed some crimes and got away with it, right? That is not the thing I'm denying. What I'm denying is that overall there's this case of like a bunch of banks being bailed out and like all these corporate people getting out with a ton of money and everything, or you said even coming out richer than when they started. I just don't think there's good evidence for that. So I've already said like some banks were allowed to like collapse, like Lehman Brothers, right? There were also a lot of requirements when banks got loans from the Federal Reserve, or the Federal Reserve found a buyer for them. For example, I believe they found a buyer for Bear Stearns, but they had to have good collateral. That way, if they didn't work out,
Morgan.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. That way, if it didn't work out, the Federal Reserve would have a bunch of collateral, right? And by the way, the Federal Reserve made a profit off the quantitative easing it did. It remitted its profits to the Treasury, to the American government Treasury, from the quantitative easing it did.
Going back to one of your points, there are 3 banks that actually became richer during the 2008 crisis: Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Goldman Sachs.
Okay,
When you say richer, what do you mean? How are you defining richer?
Capital, bruh. Capital.
Well,
Capital,
wait,
bruh.
JP Morgan bought Chase. They actually expanded their business during that time.
Right.
That's why it's JP Morgan Chase today.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
because it's not surprising that when the financial sector, in any sector, is experiencing crisis, that you see consolidation, right? Because some firms have either better management or like more collateral, more access to capital that other firms don't have, and they want there's benefits to the merger there. There is empirical evidence that like mergers tend to bring the worst performing firm up to like the average productivity of the better performing firm. So I think there were reasons for that consolidation happening in 2008, but it doesn't mean.
But they became more wealthy, right? The firm that won out.
Who?
In the end.
The firm grew overall,
JP
maybe.
Morgan.
But they were, but that's by nature of the fact that like they bought like a failing bank, and that was
JP
with
Morgan
essentially I think even the word pressure here is appropriate. Pressure from the Federal Reserve, like there were people. I think even Ben Bernanke was like calling people in JP Morgan Chase trying to get them to buy their Stearns.
Okay. JP Morgan was one of the companies that actually was involved or directly involved in this. Them and Merrill Lynch with a fucking big old bull or whatever, they went under as well, and they were bought out by another company too. I don't remember who it was.
Of America.
Yeah, Bank of America. So, I mean, these are companies that actually took advantage of this downfall and actually grew their businesses out of it. So when she says that some people got very wealthy out this, some people did, and there were very rich people that did.
Oh yeah, I mean that's where you make your money. You make your money off people doing stupid shit.
Then all you have to do is tell her she's right when she says that.
I think that no. I think the picture she's painting is very misleading. When people
never have entered our collective consciousness.
Since when the
Agree,
fuck
actually.
does Arby's close at 9:30? And when do they stop serving 20 minutes before they close? I fucking
I
hate
think you're eating at Arby's is weird and gross anyway, Steve. And
It's
part of the
American.
course.
It's very
Okay,
American.
but,
Your dad is American.
As far as if you've got to eat fast food, it's definitely the best option.
No, it's
How
not.
dare you be?
That's
Arby's is
In-N-Out is the
delicious.
best.
And Steve, I doxed you and I called them in advance and I
I think I know why you're a communist. You've never had Arby's curly fries.
I have,
Like,
and they're gross.
what fucking fast food restaurant stops serving 20 minutes before they close?
Oh,
What?
I gotta agree on
Like,
the curly fries. Those curly fries are fucking awesome.
Like
Wait,
fast
why are you
food,
supporting,
fast
you're
food
supporting
sucks
the
as a
major
whole.
meat company, Mojo? Literally,
No, it's
Arby's?
the curly fries. That's the only thing
True,
that's good.
horrible.
Well,
Why
that
don't-
and
Right,
they have a
they might be
Jamocha
cooking
shake
them in
too.
cow fat.
They have a Jamocha shake too, which is fucking good as shit.
Gross.
Arby's does not use beef tallow. That's steak and shake.
Wait,
You're right.
Peg, do you hate Arby's for political reasons?
I just hate Arby's because it's gross.
It's way better than Wendy's and McDonald's, and those are my only other two
I don't
options.
eat that either. I don't eat any of that shit. I will
Fucking
do In-N-Out.
I hate this state.
You don't even
It's
eat
TikTok,
lamb.
of course they are.
I do eat lamb, but only on special occasions, and it's
Did
usually
everybody
Easter.
welcome me back early? Where I think
It's not even.
And I
It's
feel
not
really
even
bad about
9:30. It's only 8:30. Central Standard Time is the correct time.
Peg, you just horrified Mojo.
I know. I feel bad about it. I don't do it though. Like I have to show up, and that's what it is. Sorry.
Lamb is okay, but goat is way better.
No.
Mojo's thinking, why fucking lamb? Why can't you eat
No,
full-grown
it's
sheep?
so-
Why does it have
so
to be baby
awful.
sheep? The fuck is wrong with you people?
Majority of the year, though, I do live a very much vegetarian diet for the most part. There's only certain times in the month where I will eat meat.
I'm sorry, but there are two things that are worse. The worst things you can possibly ever eat, and that would be foie gras and veal.
No.
Foie gras and veal. Both those things are
Okay.
fucking so
Birria made from goat is delicious.
Stop talking like that on
You
Mojo's
are-
panel.
You are
Stop
slap
it.
boxing with fate. He will kick you out the panel.
Don't be mean. That's mean. So I am looking up and mortgage fraud sting, but only 400 were noted of being, and I don't think anything happened with those 406 people.
Okay, I don't know how many times I have
What
to
is
say
it you were
this.
looking up?
Yeah, because these big, huge banks like Bank of America,
CBS.org.
JP, and Citigroup all did settlements in civil court,
And
man.
it wasn't even higher ups that were arrested. It was like people like Mojo who were literally quote unquote just following orders. Those are the only people that were actually arrested. And
Yeah.
Okay, I believe
Yeah, they
I
basically
can
had, Fall
find
Guys.
it's somewhere deep in my notes is the name of the dude I was talking
What was
about.
that,
I believe he
Ibanez? What
was.
was
I believe
that?
it was a higher up.
What was
They had-
that? What was that, Ibanez?
They had Fall Guys.
yes,
Like that one kid was what was it the one that upped the prices on the on the shots for like what's the shit called, allergic reactions or whatever, EpiPens. What was Pharma Bro? I think he was like a Fall Guy as well, because there's a bunch of old white guys that don't go to jail.
yeah, none of these were actually executives that actually made any decisions in these banks. It was literally just people who were
Wait.
selling.
Farmer Bro was roommates with a guy who did Fire Festival. I'm sorry, that guy was a fucking scammer and deserved to be in jail for a long fucking time.
Literally.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's just
the guy I was thinking of, to be clear, is Kareem Saragledin. He was an executive at Credit Suisse, and he was sentenced to jail time.
There
Where-
were people
Is
who
that
didn't
really?
work.
Is that the only person?
I believe he's the only like executive person. But so like
Are
I
we
said,
forgetting
forgetting who?
Bernie Madoff? Kind of a big one.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was
wasn't
for like
part of
a
this.
the
Yeah, that
Ponzi
was
No,
for
scheme.
something
he wasn't
separate.
part of the bank, but he ran a major.
Yeah.
This is
That
the
wasn't
largest
part
Ponzi
of
scheme.
this. That had nothing to do with this.
No, but
Yeah.
he got exposed by it. So I was just pointing out he got thrown in prison. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure who you guys were going to include in all this.
Wait, there was one executive sentence or whatever, but again, I don't know how many times I have to repeat this. I agree. There are probably plenty of people who like engaged in at least some amount of crime that did not get prosecuted or punished properly, right? I'm sure that it's the case. Now, I think probably it's almost always going to be the case that the people you actually get on this type of crime are going to be like the people doing the work and not the executives, because the executives are almost always probably going to have some amount of plausible deniability that they would just never get convicted via jury. But I think the overall picture you're
Zero Wall
painting.
Street CEOs served jail time. Only, this says 35 to 60 total bankers were sentenced to prison, but cases involve smaller community or regional banks rather than major systematic giants.
Also,
And then
I'm
Green
pretty
only
sure
served 30
the
months in
first thing I
prison.
said when I came up here was this guy did go to jail. I don't know. He might not have been a Wall
30
Street executive.
months.
Yeah, great. So I'm pretty sure the first thing I said was me saying, I know of one person who did go to jail. He might not meet the standards of like Wall Street executive or whatever for the thing you're citing. And It seems like that's the case. I never claimed that he did beat your specific standards for Wall Street executives or whatever, right? I was just saying
She's just doing a fact check, bro. She's not trying to do a gotcha. This isn't debate bro
okay,
hour.
but it's a
She's
fact
just
check
doing a
against
fact
what
check.
claim? Wait, what claim is she fact checking me on?
Because again, we're talking about accountability, and one person serving jail time is not accountability for this at all.
Okay,
But that's still.
I don't think I've ever claimed that there was a like wide scale amount of criminal accountability in the 2008 financial crisis. I don't think I ever claimed that.
And there's also like, you if you didn't commit fraud, like you don't. There's nothing to charge them with.
What do you mean there's nothing to charge them with committing fraud?
Like if you make a bad investment, that's not a crime.
Well, Martha Stewart actually went to jail for fraud. So how is that any different than what these Wall Street bankers did?
Because what Martha Stewart did was insider trading, which is a crime.
Right, but if the whole recession kind of started because of the fact that like no one could trust each other and they were refusing to make like quote unquote like I don't even know, my brain's fried at this point. But
I also like.
Go ahead, Steve.
I also like how they fucking took Martha Stewart as the little fish for insider trading, despite the fact that all of Capitol Hill does it every fucking day, and we just don't look at it.
Literally. Because
Okay, so just to be
I bet
clear,
Martha Stewart became more popular because of it. She fucking
She
met
did.
Snoop Dogg
She
and
might
she
have.
like
Yeah.
redefined her whole fucking life.
I mean, every
Yeah.
person that's ever been canceled has come out of it more popular. So
Yeah, she's like on a wine bottle.
it's pretty par for the course.
to be clear, I
Right,
just
just
want
like
to
these
be.
banks came
So
out
I
of
never
this
claimed.
situation wealthier and better. So
Wait,
Again.
who came out of the 2008 financial crisis?
you already
wealthier
said
and
it.
better?
Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs.
So I think there are probably some firms that expanded. I think the fact that they expanded is preferable to the alternative, which was them not buying like the other firms that were failing. It's probably preferable. And then secondly, I think that that's
so
just
again,
not.
how
That's
were
at
they
least
able to expand though? They were doing better financially, so they were able to buy out their competitors or merge together with another competitor because they also did buy out smaller banks as well.
Their competitors
Yeah,
were
so-
also failing at the same time, so they weren't worth a whole lot.
So did they have more money in order to buy out competitors and do merges or not?
Yes,
Not
that's
necessarily the competitors.
Well, I don't
There you
actually
go.
know. I don't
That's
actually know
simple, bro.
if they.
What should have happened? Wait, how about what should have happened is that the banks that were bought out should have been sold off instead, piece by piece, piecemeal, whatever the hell you want to do with it.
What they
and
were
then
selling,
that
the
profit- and
Federal
then-
Reserve was
and
trying to
then-
sell
hold
banks
on,
to failing
hold
banks to
on,
whoever
hold
they were
on,
like
hold
begging
on.
banks to buy the failing banks.
Let's
Chill out,
let her
chill
finish.
out,
Don,
chill out,
Mojo will give
chill
you a
out.
time to talk.
Okay.
Chill out, dude. I'm just saying that whatever we need to do to get whatever profit we can out of them, and then that money should have been given to all the people that lost their fucking homes.
They made
and
a
then
profit.
allowed them to rebuy homes. That would
First
have
of
been better
all-
for the economy. That would have been better for the economy as a whole, don't you
Well,
think?
I mean, your qualm here is with the Federal Reserve because they're the ones that did this. They're the ones that
I don't
sold.
care. I don't care who's responsible. Whatever the money was, they would have been better off going to the people that lost their homes, allowing them to buy new homes, rather than going to the banks that were able to restructure and do acquisitions and mergers because of it. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Okay.
better
So
for the
first of all,
economy?
when you say
you would have still had to sell them.
Wouldn't that be better for the economy?
Well, I'm curious as to how it would be any different than what there was because
Because people
if the
would
Federal
have
Reserve-
homes.
yeah, but if the
Because
Federal
people-
Reserve had to
because-
sell these
wait,
banks to someone else,
You said you're curious. Hold on. People would have homes. The banks would still exist, and people would have fucking homes. That is better for the economy than a bank getting bigger.
sure, but the banks would have gotten bigger too because when the Federal Reserve sold these banks, the other banks would have still bought them. You're just mad about what happened with the money, not about the fact that the banks merged together.
Okay,
Right?
that's fine.
I also.
So again, a failure of government.
What exactly do you mean by like the Federal Reserve should have sold these banks out and tried to get a profit off of it? I don't understand what you mean by that because that's literally what they did in many cases.
Yeah, that's what he just said, and that's what I just said okay to. Were you not listening?
No, but it seems like no. But
No, he wasn't.
remember when I
think
interrupted you and everyone got mad? You said what we should have done to get a profit off of it is the Federal Reserve like should have like sold these banks or whatever.
But
Like the
that's what-
FDIC.
yes, again, let's go through this one more fucking time. That's what Steve just said, and I said, okay, that's fine.
But it seems like you're against it because they sold to like JP Morgan Chase. And then that means they expanded.
I say, yes, piecemeal them off. Take all of the money from piecemealing them off and give that back to the people that lost their homes. That was my solution. I said that would be better for the economy. Steve said that money went to the Federal Reserve. And I said, that's fine. Then take it from the Federal Reserve and give people money for fucking homes.
Okay, so there was overall a net profit the Federal Reserve made, a net accounting profit the Federal Reserve made that was remitted to the Treasury. First of all, do you agree with that?
Yes, they loaned money to these fucking banks for a minuscule fucking interest rate. So minuscule that those banks, had they had to do the same in reverse, would never have given them that low of a fucking interest rate. There was not any interest in profit maximizing from this.
Okay, so you're correct in that the Federal Reserve was giving like risky loans at favorable interest rates to certain banks, right?
No, I didn't say risky loans. I didn't say risky loans. Who said risky loans? Why are you putting those words in my mouth? I never said that.
I think that's just another adjective to describe
what?
like favorable,
No,
very low interest rate.
Low
Do that,
interest.
B. Don't do that, B.
I know. I'm sorry. I get mad when you do it too to other people because I think it's.
I know.
it's
I hate it.
ableist.
I hate it when I do it too, and I try and catch myself for doing this.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
But maybe by your standards it's not risky, that's fine or whatever. But like typically banks charge higher interest rates when they think there's a higher risk. The fact that they're charging
Is
sort
the
of an
Federal
artificially
Reserve
low.
risky to is the Federal Reserve risky to get loans from?
Yes, well, it can be. There's a big stigma. There's a big stigma. So what do you mean by risky? So what do you mean by risky? There is a big stigma. There is a big stigma when banks get when banks access. You can people can chat GPT this. The Federal Reserve can always
give them the loan when the banks failed. When all of the major banks in the United States essentially failed, who was going to give them the fucking loan?
I don't know what you're asking me.
There was no other player in town.
Exactly.
That's a pretty simple question.
So what I'm saying is, so there's a big stigma against banks getting loans from the Federal Reserve because of that very reason, because they're like the last resort, right? That's why like firms typically when they take when they access a discount window from the Federal Reserve, they do actually take a hit because investors see that and they get worried about the bank's position.
Who else were they going to get the loan from? Because they just crashed the market. Who else were they going to get the loan from?
It doesn't matter.
I'm
So if
not
the Federal Reserve
disagreeing.
did not exist,
I'm
everyone's
not
fucking money would
disagreeing.
not be here today.
I'm not
It was
disagreeing.
the only option. So for you to try and say that it's risky is fucking wild. You're doing
First of
this
all, I was
communist
saying it was
dissident
risky for
thing
the
where you're
Federal
trying to fit your
Reserve. It was
world
risky.
world.
First of all, I was saying it was risky for the Federal Reserve, not it was risky for the banks, right?
Oh,
I do
I
think in a sense it
misunderstood
is
that.
risky from
I
the banks
understood that.
because the firm takes a hit when they access a discount window because investors don't like that the Federal Reserve is, or that the bank that they are invested in is getting loans from the Federal Reserve because guess what? You're correct. That indicates the bank doesn't have any other options, right? So
Yeah,
they don't like that.
You. It's my fault. That was a me issue. I'll give you that. You're right.
Well,
Angry
I don't
bees.
actually know if you understand me. So I'm because number one.
Don't please don't.
No, I
please,
am. No,
please
I
don't
understood.
explain.
Once-
Okay. Please.
Once
don't
you explain
it.
non-fun, I'm being genuine. I'm not a bad faith
Disingenuous.
person on this app. I truly did understand what you said.
Okay, great. So I think it is to some degree it was risky for the Federal Reserve to give out low interest rate loans to struggling banks because sort of by the nature of being low interest rate and by no one else being willing to lend to those banks, that indicates that it was a very risky thing to do. Now it ended up working out for the most part. And the Federal Reserve did end up like making an overall profit, but mostly off of the quantitative easing. I don't know if they made that much money off of the loans themselves. And then but so if you calculate like the sort of, if you try to take into account how favorable the Federal Reserve loans were, it seems like on net throughout the entirety of the crisis, there was about like $500 billion in like sort of subsidies to the banks, and not like a literally giving them $500 billion sense, but in giving them like favorable terms that like the favorable terms were in a sense like worth $500 billion. Now, given the situation we were in 2008, I think overall that was appropriate. And I think it's still not fair to consider it a bailout, considering there was still an accounting profit that people did like lose their, like Bear Stearns, like everyone there like lost their jobs. Even they got integrated into the JP Morgan Chase. And
okay. Everybody just say okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You
But
beat
none
the
of these are
commie,
responses to
non-fan. You win today. You live to beat another commie.
We'll be back.
I don't want to listen to it
Yes.
anymore. Is there something else we can talk about?
Yes, something.
why are none of you interested in responding to my characterization of things?
Tapping is
We
clapping.
just
We've been
said
doing
okay.
finance
tuned
all
out, bro.
day. We've been doing finance all day, non-fan. To be fair, like if you would have came this morning into Jenny's live, we would have been all gung-ho about it, but we've been doing finance all day. It's kind of exhausting.
Guys,
It's
there's
kind of-
56 people in here. Only 33 people have shared the live. Please share the live, even if you're in the comments. Just share it. There's only 33. That needs to be higher. Tap the
Do
screen.
the heart me, tap the screen. Yeah.
Heart me's. If you don't know how to do the heart me, you see a heart by Mojo's name, click it. All you have to do is you'll see the send the heart me. You'll get 45 points. You click that, and then you become more of a super fan. You'll get more. Great. I see 38. You'll become a super fan and do all the fun stuff. Tapping is clapping. If you cannot share the live, which I don't know why you can't, it's this little arrow in the very bottom left of your screen. Tap that, share the live, or at least just tap. Tap that ass. Okay, thank you.
Whoa.
You see Mojo? You see that? You see that
Did you
Mark
say-
statue? Tap that ass.
Did he say?
Tap that ass.
Okay,
Wait, hold on.
B and Peg and
After that.
Steve and also TJ, I followed you. You guys can DM me. We can set something up later if you want to be interested in talking to you, B and Peg, about some stuff. I don't know if you guys are both socialists or whatever, but about stuff related to socialism and or any of the more progressive economic positions you have.
I'm not a socialist at all.
I know
Yeah,
you're
I'm
not,
a
TJ.
libertarian.
I know you're not. I was saying I also followed you, but yeah.
Thank you for the 45 shares. Can we please get it up to over 50 since there are 58 people in this live? 50.
Well. Oh my God, people. What's up? Not fun W, true. Okay, I think I said welcome back to you, Dylan, already, but welcome back. And Boeing stuff. Did the folks that got fucked in their mortgage get bailed out? So, not really. Oh, it's up north again. I think it's a little bit, as I argued, a little bit disingenuous to say like there's this like absolutely massive, insane bailout. The things that like they were saying about the nature of the bailouts was in day-long meetings the last 2 days. Well, welcome back to Hammer. Good to see you here, despite the hardships. You know, I think that's a little disingenuous. I think it's fair to say like the auto industry got bailed out. I think it's like fair to that. I don't even. The frustrating thing. There's a world in which the term in which the word bailout is used in the context of 2008, and it's fine. Okay, there's a world out there that exists for that. But it's not our world, because when you say bailout, people assume like the most crazy, insane things that they were saying. And I just didn't think that it didn't have any arguments. Mitt Romney was right. We should have let Detroit go bankrupt. Detroit's bad. They're bankrupt there by now, anyways, right? Because the auto industry is pro-Trump. That's true. And the auto industry didn't. The reason I think it's fair. Well, I think it's more fair to consider that a bailout for two reasons. One is that like, you know, the auto industry is not like of the same importance of the credit industry in the context of fighting recessions, right? Like we probably think it's more justified, generally speaking, to intervene in the credit market, into banks, into anything like relating to monetary policy, because that affects the overall economy much more, and especially does so in the context of a recession, primarily called caused by like monetary issues or caused by some people might object to, but you know, that was the margin at which we were trying to fix things at the very least. And then secondly, they didn't pay that money back. The TARP money was paid back, and the quantitative easing turned a profit, which was remitted to the Treasury. What's up, Les? Go. What? Red Russ. Weed Russ. Yo, if a teacher yaps the whole day, he has his mouth trained E, so imagine how good of a head they must give. Good to know, good to think about, good to ponder. See the new Professor Dave Destiny video. I watched a little bit of Destiny reacting to it, and I think I saw like a clip of it on Twitter, like some account posted it, not a Snorker account, but like a DDG account. I don't know, it seems pretty deranged. I think like Professor Dave is like, he has some good stuff, okay? Like his videos on like creationist are all good, like the flat earth videos are good and stuff, and a lot of his politics stuff is just like totally deranged. I don't know. And that especially Israel Palestine. Yeah, it just seems pretty deranged. Nitrites and nitrates. I don't know, probably China. Probably like Germany, probably. Maybe Japan. Okay, not Japan. Okay, maybe the US. What's easy money? I hate when people bring up the Kansas tax code experiment that I've heard people bring it up before, but you might have watched a clip I posted. Oh, I might have actually. Yeah, I didn't. I wouldn't remember. I don't think that it was from you, but yeah. I don't know. It seems very deranged. God, even Professor Dave's like economic stuff is mostly good. He has like, I don't know why he does this. He has like you hate it because it was an embarrassing failure. Oh, you're talking to easy money, I bet. Literally do 5 minutes of digging and you'll see it has as much accuracy as tax rates were 90% during the 50s. Well, I don't know. I've never dug into it. I think they're just like more relevant things when it comes to that type of stuff. But if you send me stuff, maybe if I'm convinced by it, at least I can add to the populist slop meme stuff. Professor Dave was like strictly educational videos, like literally just like a teacher could show us in class. And I don't really know why he does it for subjects that he was like never a teacher in, like because he has one in economics, and I just don't. I don't know why he does that or whatever. But he also has a video on like Eric Weinstein, and Eric Weinstein's like absurd inflation index bullshit that he does. That's mathematically impossible and has known to be mathematically impossible for quite a while now. So that video is good. Nitrates. I don't know. Doesn't Switzerland have some fucking time? It's gonna be wrong. Chile. Fuck. Israel. Jordan, South Africa. I'm looking at the wrong place. I'm smart. 2000 states show why Kansas critique of income tax cuts is mistaken. Hold on. Copper, gold, grapes, other fruits, refined copper. Are there any African countries that have a lot of copper? Grapes? Where do grapes grow? I think it's. I was about to say Peru to hammer. I feel like it's got to be South America, and it's not. Chile. I think I am gonna guess Peru. Fuck yeah. I just can never prove to people that I came up with Peru on my own independently. Okay. I'll skim through this. Decade after Kansas has failed, tax experiment memories linger and continue to color the debate on tax reform and tax relief across the country. Kansas experiments so infamous that what about Kansas almost guaranteed to be a question, sometimes as a retort, but often as a genuine expression of concern anytime state explores tax relief. So here's a question: what about the other 2,000 states that have cut their income taxes since then? 25 states. Well, the context in which I've heard the Kansas stuff cited specifically is about like austerity, right? Like they were in a budget, like a budget crisis beforehand or whatever. And the goal, no more socialism debates, boss. What's up, Sauce Rama? Oh, what's up, Mia? Welcome back. You missed an incredible 2008 debate. They say tax cuts don't work. Yeah, so the context in which I have heard the Kansas stuff discussed, it's not simply that like cutting income taxes is going to destroy everything. It's just that they didn't raise growth enough to like pay for themselves and get Kansas out of its budget crisis. Basically, they didn't pay commensurate spending cuts. The way they cut taxes bad. Pass-through businesses don't work. Pass-through business cuts don't work. Okay. Twenty-five states with lower income tax rates now than it did Kansas. When Kansas adopted its tax cuts in 2012, only 4 states and DC have higher rates since. Issue is one of extreme imbalance combined with a poor policy design that exempted all pass-through income from taxation and encouraged tax avoidance activity. Policymakers initially considered $900 million tax cut offset with roughly commensurate amount of spending reductions, but because such steep cuts were never particularly feasible, the state's general fund budget was $6 billion. Lawmakers eventually decided to move towards tax cuts while jettisoning the offsetting reductions, accompanied by some hand-waving about how the difference would be made up through tax cut-induced economic growth. But this is like what... Like... I think I've only really heard the Kansas tax cut meme from like Paul Krugman and Robert Reich. And like Paul Krugman, you know, cool dude, okay. Smart guy. He does do some slop sometimes. Okay. Sometimes. Robert Reich only does slop. But in fairness, the claims I heard them make is like more specifically basically this, that the tax cuts did not pay for themselves, which is like, ignore the ASMR I was watching.
Some politicians are calling for taxes on the rich. And
no reasonable center-right person thinks that you can make up a... Yeah, I agree. I agree, to be clear. I don't know. I would have to dig through it, and it's not really worth doing. But... is that a positive economic feedback affects the lower taxes, but that except in the rare circumstances, they are nowhere near large enough to pay for tax cuts on their own. A more competitive tax code promotes economic growth, and economic growth yields higher collections per percentage point on the now lower rate, but not more than would have been generated under the higher rates. Often that's fine and in fact desirable. If states are experiencing revenue growth, they have an opportunity to return some of that growth to the taxpayers and further galvanize that growth trajectory rather than absorbing it all into state government. Most states, unlike Kansas, funded their income tax cuts through either by returning a portion of projected revenue growth with their taxpayers, adopting revenue offsets that are more economically efficient than the income tax, or both. In an era of increased mobility for individuals and business alike, maintaining tax competitiveness is crucial. Okay. Whoa. True. We demand more ASMR content. If I ever get desperate, okay, then I'll find ASMR channel. I don't think people would watch that. I think there's maybe a little bit more demand for that than there is for the non-fun only fans. And there's not much more demand or much demand for that to begin with. Guys, I was just about to put this phone up. Okay, but never mind. Don't worry about it. Okay. That big Shakuna guy was live, but he ended it. But he might just be restarting it. I mean, the references to the Laffer curve are often suggesting that cutting taxes would increase revenue. It's implied that we're on one side of the Laffer curve, not the other. Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that's just like, slop from like libertarian people on fucking Twitter. I don't really like, I don't think almost anyone actually fully believes that. I was going to say almost no reasonable person, as Easy Money said. Okay. We're not going to watch all this. But they keep going after my man David, bro. You can ask anyone on the center of the right, think tanks and none of them. Well, anyone who works at a think tank, I assume was going to have beliefs. Well, most think tanks are going to have beliefs that are like reasonable. I agree. I don't actually know exactly what some of the stuff she's citing in here is. But this TikTok girl, it's like citing fucking Jason Hickle slop, but not from Jason Hickle. So I have to. Then we get him. I might have to update some of my knowledge here.
I'm talking about today, how institutions like the IMF, World Bank actively are used to continue the exploitation of Africa. More money leaves the global south than enters it. That is a fact. So therefore, the West benefits off of the destabilization because, again, they don't have...
I don't know what she means by that. Because, first of all, I don't think that just because, depending on what is meant by more money leaves and enters, I don't think like a balance of payments deficit is necessarily bad. Does he even know about unequal exchange? I don't know if he recognizes it by name. But I've heard, Sample Tech said he's talked to David a bit and tried to give him stuff about some of these topics. So I bet somewhere he has like Tibor Reuter's post on some of this stuff, but I don't think he knows it by name or anything. How country, so I don't know exactly what she means by that, because obviously balance of payments is equal to zero. Like the capital account surplus equal to trade deficit. Or current account deficit, trade deficit is within that. Regardless, it doesn't strike me as necessarily preferable for a developed country to have either one of those. I think it depends on what is driving it. If they have like a big trade deficit because they have a big fiscal deficit and that lowers their national savings rate, that is probably not ideal. If they have like a trade deficit because they have like a lot of foreign investment, like that probably is good for them on it. I mean, I understand why she might not have that view, but because she views the investment itself as like exploitative. But like most people probably would have a different place on that.
have to pay for the expensive goods. They can get it cheaper. They don't have to pay Congolese people. Can I please finish? Can I please finish? You don't have to be condescending and laughing, right?
I mean, that's how you've been every single time we've had a
I've
conversation.
not been
So don't act like
condescending.
this is
I'm having a conversation with you. I'm having a conversation.
Last time I
with you,
think
you're
when I was on the
laughing.
live in the chat, you were saying that I shouldn't have a platform. Why is he allowed to have a platform? Don't act innocent now because you're in a corner.
Yes, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's exactly like I can't respond.
True.
Economics. Slavery is not cheap. So the United States imports
can I finish?
$43 billion from Africa. How much money do we spend in the continent? Let's see.
And how much money do you get out of it? How much money do you get out of it?
Let me get the exact number of how much money we spend in Africa, in the continent.
How much money do you get out of it?
I already told you.
I don't know what that means either. How much, as measured by how much surplus is created. So either or like any measurement of like how much money we get out of Africa, it's just not going to be clear that just because it's more than the aid we give them that we're necessarily exploiting them, because trades can be like positive sum. A railroad Marxist could take him down easily.
We import for
David. I think like on some things. So, but like knowledge is specialized, guys. Okay. David will do like much better against a lot of like the TikTok Trump supporters than I do, because he just like keeps up with the news more often. He's like more gifted in that like rhetoric stuff, like that's just the stuff he's more used to. That's the stuff he specializes in. That's the stuff he's interested in. I might do better against a well-read Marxist, even though like the most well-read Marxist I might like. There's definitely people I struggle against just because the Marx theory stuff fucking kill me. I'll never read it. I'll never read Capital. Yeah, but like, you know, that's just by nature of what I'm interested in, what I read about. So
$1 billion worth of goods. That is
No,
orders of magnitude smaller.
Not in imports.
And I was impressed by the last conversation where, because you know this isn't a thing he talks about that often, but he still did pretty well against Will's Talks guy.
How do you think we get goods?
Havens? What about the tax havens? What about removing resources without having to pay taxes? What about all the corporations, the multinational?
So there is, first of all, I don't know how many African countries are tax havens. Like, it's not what we think of as traditionally being tax havens. But just because they're able to extract resources without paying taxes or much taxes doesn't mean the trade is not positive. Some still, obviously. It's private business that makes money, not the people. Can you call yourself an economist having not read Capital? I don't call myself an economist. And I have read Wage, Labor, and Capital, which is a much shorter book by Marx. And I have read the Communist Manifesto. And I have read some of Romer's Free to Lose, which is a book about the Marxist notation, Marxist theories, Marxist models of things. So, you know, I have some knowledge there, but I will probably read some of Capital at some point. Okay. I might have to read some of it for college later on. I'm sorry.
Corporations, including American corporations that are going in there, they're not paying a living wage and they're sucking the sources dry. What about all of that? Because if you just take into account official imports and you don't take into account every other way that money is going out of Africa, then you're being disingenuous.
But okay.
I just wish does he even know about super profits? Probably not. I just wish like we could get clear here, because like there, you know, I understand this like by nature of my brain being fucked, okay, and like other people have understandings of these things, but like I just don't have an understanding of what exactly we mean when we say any of this stuff.
Paying a living wage and they're sucking the. What about all the corporations, the multinational corporations, including American corporations that are going in there, they're not paying a living wage and they're sucking the sources dry.
I understand what living wage means. They're sucking the sources dry.
Because if you just take into account official imports and you don't.
If you just take into account official imports, isn't David talking about the like foreign aid money we give them right now?
Take into account every other way that money is going out of Africa.
Which actually is mostly in the capital account, I believe. Oh no, it is in a current account. Secondary income balance consists of two parts. The income that Australian resident is from Australia's explainer on it. Australian residents earn from less than they pay to the rest of the world from the government. Example, tax payments and refund. Current transfers. Transactions between Australian residents and the rest of the world, where one party provides something to be consumed by another party without receiving anything in return, e.g. emergency food aid.
Then you're being disingenuous.
But okay, are we talking about the United States or the...
That's like Walmart workers on food stamps. So, setting aside the issues I have with the framing of some of the Walmart workers and food stamp memes, okay, setting aside that stuff for now, I think, like, you know, this probably is the case that unfortunately, okay, the alternatives for people in African countries are oftentimes just a lot worse than what foreign nationals offer them, for like foreign companies offer them. So I think you should just like consider that. Like, I think that's like what we should care about. Now there is like there's an issue with state corruption and stuff of that nature, which means like there are plenty of cases in like the DRC of like genuine slave / indentured servant, you know, forced labor because the state does not have a monopoly on violence and there's a lot of corruption because the state's institutions are weak and such, right? And there are, you know, potential solutions to those problems, but I just don't I don't think this is a fair thing.
The West or what let's do
I'm
that.
talking about the US and Europe.
So you can have private companies making money and throw the scraps to the populations. It's not clear to me that that is the case. It seems like generally we have decently identified evidence that suggests, you know, sort of the more economically free you are, the more Washington consensus standards a country adopts and such. Generally, those tend to have pro-growth effects, and those don't just like stay within a few people. It tends to, you know, increase wages, increase incomes, increase prosperity broadly. Obviously, there might be like individual companies that the majority of income like does stay within a company, but I don't think it means that I still think you should consider the fact that oftentimes the alternative is worse for that country. Is the argument that countries with monopolist power can sell commodities at higher prices? So I don't think she knows these terms even. At higher prices and the market value, but developing countries prices are lower than the production prices, which effectively transfer from the third world to the first. I don't actually know exactly in what terms she's speaking in. It seems like she has a very weird concept of like a money in, money out perspective on stuff, and I don't even know exactly what she means by that. But she is broadly appealing to the unequal exchange stuff.
The West in total, as a whole, they destabilize. They destabilize countries so they can get resources cheaper. They don't have to
never
pay
addressed
living
any of my
wage.
points earlier. You're repeating the
I
same thing
did
over and over again.
address your points.
It's expensive to have slaves, bro. It's not a good thing.
I'm saying it is more expensive for the West to have stable countries in the global South.
Why? We have a trade deficit with Africa. We have a trade deficit.
Wait, hold on.
They get more shit than we get in return. Okay,
No,
what are you
that's not
talking
true.
about?
That's not true.
No, that is true. We have a seven.
Oh boy.
That's not true.
Sorry, it is. We have a $7.5 billion trade deficit with the continent of Africa, with African nations.
Hold on. Actually, this is actually so crazy. This is why I say you don't deserve a platform, because you're just writing misinformation.
Oh, so you weren't okay? True. So that was the case, right?
So hold on.
I never seen a claim that capitalism forces poor conditions in poor countries when it would be much more beneficial to create conditions and to create higher efficiency. Yeah, and that's what David is like talking about here. I skipped like through to like halfway through this debate to when they started talking about the stuff I care about, because they were I skimmed through it and they were talking about like the intervention in Libya still, because that's what she wanted to follow up on from the last guy, but they eventually got to this stuff. But yeah, that's why David is referencing some of the things he said earlier about that. Like you know, it wouldn't really be beneficial. At least people probably don't have the intuition to be beneficial for like one sector or like one region of the country to be like super poor. They might think that, what's up, Diet Pepsi? They might think that still, but like most people, they wouldn't think that. They think it's probably better for the U.S. overall if Michigan is doing really well. That doesn't necessarily come at the expense of the other states. And even if we have to pay more for our products in Michigan, it's because the people of Michigan are making cooler stuff. They're higher productivity, right? This is increasing living standards, all those great things. So, it's not clear why the logic also wouldn't apply to developing nations that we trade with. Oh, and speaking of that, also, and maybe she thinks this too, okay, but there is actually a very easy solution to all this stuff, which is just open the borders, okay? Just let them come here, okay? So, you want their wages to go up a ton, just let them move to the U.S. and their wages go up like 5 to 10x, bro. Plus, poor regions breed conflicts, which means, even less efficiency for the most right now.
More money leaves Africa. There's an article about this.
Okay, so you're just gonna go to the article instead of addressing what I just said.
No, it's an article. It's an actual study.
Thing, right?
So it's an actual. No, it's an actual.
It's an actual study. Actual study.
So this is a study that was done by a coalition of UK and African equality and development campaigners, including Global Justice Now. And
sound like very serious people.
About this is called "World is Plundering Africa's Wealth of Billions of Dollars a Year." It said that.
So I haven't, like I said, I skimmed through this part. I heard her mention this. I haven't looked it up at all. We did see a long-term decline in prices of primary commodities, global sales exports relative to manufacturing, global norths. Yeah, but I don't know why I would interpret it as necessarily net negative. And I think, I think like the chain people try to connect. I don't know if she said this ever. It wouldn't surprise me if she did. It's like, all these poor countries like make a bunch of the inputs for stuff, and then the developed country produces the actual good, and then they have to import the finished good at a much higher price. She might say that eventually. This is, oh my God, Edge. Nine years old. More wealth leaves Africa every year than enters it by more than 40 billion, according to research that challenges misleading perceptions of foreign aid. Why would anyone want to move here? We're the most racist country ever. Yeah, maybe she thinks that. Bro, I tweeted today. This is the only opinion I'll ever give on the DSA discourse going on, guys, okay? The DSA is bad because supporting every woke thing gives Democrats less room for voters to support open borders, which is the most important woke thing. There's like a Brian Kaplan article from a while ago that I was just reminded of. Dear American leftists, even if you're right about everything, the way the U.S. treats immigrants is vastly worse than the way the U.S. treats marginalized citizens. So you should have every reason to make immigrant rights your absolute top priority. And since there's a limit to how extreme you can be and still get elected, not that these people care that much about getting elected, or to be clear, a lot of DSA people care about getting elected. The people, I should have said that. That's confusing. People like the girl in this video don't care about that. You have to triage until your country stops treating people like criminals for picking vegetables and cleaning bathrooms. All your other causes are distractions. Immigration is worth losing for. And until immigration policies radically change, it is virtually the only policy worth losing for. True.
African countries in 2015, for example, received $162 billion in total, mainly in loans, aid, and personal remittances. But in the same year, $203 billion were taken out from the continent, either directly through multinationals repatriating profits and illegally moving money into tax havens, or by costs imposed by the rest of the world through climate change adaptation and mitigation. This led to an...
Oh my God, okay. So it sounds like she's just saying that that's a financial or capital account deficit.
Annual finance $162 billion in total, mainly in loans, aid, and personal remittances. But in the same...
These are all capital account things, right? So... Because this would be even like the aid and stuff. That'd be negative for the country in the current account, right?
Year, $203 billion. Do
you read Piketty paper on unequal exchange? He doesn't cite a single third world economist. Hi, thoughts on Trump accounts? What's up, Grand Tyson Jory? Welcome back. They might be net positive. I think it's just like the design of them is kind of a little silly. We should just have universal tax-free savings account. Okay, that's my opinion. This is my pitch. Replace Trump accounts with USA accounts. USA standing for Universal Savings Accounts. But it sounds better to say USA accounts than it does US accounts. So it's fine to have two accounts. I think the Tax Foundation has stuff on that. Tax Foundation, Universal tax-free savings. The structure of Trump accounts is like it's just like a little silly to have like the amount of restrictions they do on like when you can withdraw and what you can use it for. It's just like probably not administratively good to do that. And then I think people falsely assume that it can solve the demographic issues of like Social Security and stuff, and I don't think that's the case. Which the universal savings account, to be clear, wouldn't fix the like demographic issues of Social Security either. But you know, not to pick on my American friends, but your president actually wants to tear off my country for wildfire smoke. Can't speak. What your boy be smoking? Yeah, you know, our president's a tolerance. He's a little silly. He's a little goofy. He's a little cringe, even one might say.
Were taken out from the continent, either directly through multinationals repatriating profits and illegally moving money into tax havens, or by costs imposed by the rest of the world through climate change adaptation and mitigation. This led to an annual financial deficit of $41.3 billion.
So you just weren't tracking.
What I'm hearing is trade surplus of $41 billion. That's what I'm hearing right now. That's what I'm hearing. They're making a bunch of money selling us goods.
Earlier, you recognize that, right? So I was referring to a trade deficit. No, you weren't, because I was referring to a trade deficit between the United States and Africa.
Which is why I said you should only take official statistics.
Oh, okay. So you have to take some different methodology, which you're not. Are you going to?
No, you have to take the resources that are being smuggled out as well.
Smuggled out. Okay, let's go into detail.
Smuggled out. Why don't they? Can they link to the fucking study? Dr. Jason Nickel, commenting on our report, agreed that the prevailing view of foreign aid was skewed. The key issue, he said, was illicit financial flows via multinational corporations to overseas tax havens. Okay. Britain has a direct responsibility to fix all the problems. I can see this being a thing. It's not my understanding that African countries themselves are that often tax havens, but it might be just due to low state capacity and such. Might be the case that they're able to store a lot of their money in tax havens and get around all the taxation there. Little weird, you can take money out from the Trump savings account to send to your local KKK chapter. Wait, real? No shot. Do they not like do they not? There's a like limit on some of the organizations you can give it to? A little off topic. How do you feel about a negative income tax? I think it's good. I'm joking. Oh, because you probably can withdraw to give it to fucking. I mean, you can do it to school. The modern theories of UE are like India exported value to Britain, not through trade alone, but through structurally coerced taxation, debt, and forced underdevelopment. Yeah. I'm broadly familiar. I don't know. Just have universal savings accounts, okay? It might be like the Trump accounts might be net positive, and it's certainly rational for at least some people to like have them, because you do get like $1,000 matching contribution or whatever. But I don't know. It's just a little. It's just like a little silly.
So what do they mean by those two things? Let's go. What do they mean by that? Can you elaborate on what those two things are? Because you mentioned two. You mentioned like climate change initiative things, and you mentioned something part of that. That makes the amount of money.
Tax havens. So basically, multinational corporations. They, for example, they
see alien emoji me when people use it on Snapchat. No clue. No clue.
During like an audit or whatever it is, they don't actually give up how much capital they have or how much they have earned, and they're able to then take the money out without necessarily paying taxes within these countries, right? There's like an illicit financial flow where there's like an illegal movement of cash between these countries, right? This is a fact. I don't know why you're laughing. It's an actual fact.
It's just not relevant to what we're talking about.
It is relevant.
Illegal financial activity.
It is relevant.
That's bad too, right?
You lied and said that
you said
America and the West gives more money than receives money from Africa.
You helped my point. You recognize that? No, you did, because you recognize when an economy cannot actually get the full benefits of the profits generated, that being the taxes they receive. That's also bad, because that money can then not be redistributed. It's bad for everybody. Yes, I agree.
I think it's good that it can't be redistributed. That's the real take. That's the real take.
No. It's not bad for Western countries because they're getting more money.
What's your thoughts on SNLT? Socially necessary labor time? Is that what you're asking about? I don't think he would know it by name, but I don't think he would certainly knows the labor theory of value by name, and he doesn't believe in the labor theory of value, I don't believe. I'm asking Claude to find a link to the study that the article mentions.
Out of it without having to pay what they need to pay. It's bad for it when more money is leaving an African country. That is bad for the African country and not the West, which is hence why.
Is money not leaving? Her standard was, a capital account deficit, right? There are plenty of Western countries with a capital account deficit. I believe Germany. Capital account deficit, I believe Germany has one. I believe that South Korea has one. Oh, dang. South Korea doesn't, I guess. Well, it's mixed. Australia's had one in the past. I don't know if they have one now. It says only it's the past few years. They did it in like 2020 and 2021 for a bit.
The world is plundering Africa of its wealth. For example, when Sudan is giving 80% of the global supply of Arabic gum, but Sudanese people on the ground are not being paid a fair wage. The taxes are not...
That's the thing that... Okay. Oh no, guys. Oh no. I click this link. Okay. I was told this is an actual study. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yes, when I submit my papers, this is always what it looks like. I've not actually submitted a paper, to be clear. This is the default. This is like the default LaTeX, format. Oh no. What's up, Diet Pepsi? I basically studied listening to all political streamers besides you. Oh, stopped, I'm assuming. I only watch Chicago price theory lectures now. Based. Africa's rich in potential and mineral wealth, skilled workers, booming new businesses, and biodiversity. Its people should thrive, its economies prosper, yet many people living in Africa's 47 countries remain trapped in poverty while much of the continent's wealth is being extracted by those outside of it. Research for this report calculates the movement of financial resources into and out of Africa and some key costs imposed on Africa by the rest of the world. We find that countries of Africa are collectively net creditors to the rest of the world to the tune of $41.3 billion in 2015. Thus, more wealth is leaving the world's impoverished continent than is entering it. Okay, but there's two But where else would we apply the standard of net creditor means that more money is like leaving a firm or leaving an individual than coming into it? I think that's just a wild standard. There's an obligation on the other side of the credit, like that's an asset and a liability. That like there's two sides of the double entry bookkeeping. Actually pronounced tech, not tex. One of my Calc 2 and Lin L professors knew one of the developers. Oh damn. I mean, I don't think I've ever actually used latex, I guess. Africa receives about 19 billion in aid in the form of grants, but over 3 times that much, 68 billion is taken out in capital flight, mainly by multinational companies deliberately misreporting the value of their imports or exports to reduce tax. Okay, that's not what it's typically meant by capital flight, but whatever. Live tech if it was Spanish, as if it was Spanish. That's some bullshit. Ain't no one going through all that effort. Well, Africans receive 31 billion in personal remittances from overseas. Multinational companies operating on a continent repatriate a similar amount, 32 billion in profits to their home countries each year. Okay, but the remittances don't like, oh, what's up, Darko? Can't confirm it, it's latex. Oh my, do people actually say, like, if I go to a fucking econ or physics department, do people actually say it that way? It's not just like formal, or is it only technically that? So, as the longtime non-fun fans will know, when someone in Africa gives remittance, or in this case, a multinational corporation would be giving the money would be leaving the country for them or whatever. It does not like go to a machine or some bank that converts the African currency into a US dollar that then the US gets, right? Usually there's oftentimes an intermediary currency in between if it's not through the US, but for the sake of simplicity, you're essentially using your foreign currency to buy someone else's currency in the currency whatever you want to get to either import a good from a different nation, or just to take out the profits in that currency because that's where you live and you want to like consume in your domestic country. So there are like more general concerns that you can have when it comes to some of these things, but the concern is not that like the money is like just disappearing or whatever, because those whatever currency the different African countries have will eventually be spent in the domestic country because they're not really good anywhere else. African governments received 32.8 billion in loans in 2015, but paid 18 billion in debt interest and principal payments, with the overall level of debt rising rapidly. An estimated 29 billion a year is being stolen from Africa in illegal logging, fishing, and the trade in wildlife plus plants. What would you say if someone said Africa can't industrialize due to terms of trade deterioration? I mean, it's just, first of all, there's, I don't know if I would say because of terms of trade deterioration or whatever. I think there is an element of truth in that it is harder for countries nowadays to like full on industrialize. It seems like there is some level of premature industrialization. Okay. The like countries share manufacturing employment peaks at a lower rate for countries now than it did a while ago. I think that's probably just due to technological advances and not really the terms of trade deterioration. I think I don't actually it probably is some degree in terms of trade deterioration. I don't know. I'm not actually sure how widely accepted the evidence is on that specifically. I don't think I've read anything specifically on just the terms of trade deterioration. But it's not clear to me that they need to, strictly speaking, industrialize. Even, who is that? I don't think I ever read it, but I think I have it saved. I got it saved somewhere. That girl who wrote an article, like the How I Became a Manufacturing Skeptic or whatever. She used to be like a big industrialization person or whatever, but she has recanted. She has recanted. I would argue it's because Russia destabilizing the countries and forcing them to undo industrialization starting to occur. I'm going to show that. There's some amount of that. Danny Roderick. Oh, it's a guy. I thought it was a girl. The price of Africa's exports relative to imports has trended downward for a long time. Is that... So I'm not necessarily doubting this, but like, is that a thing that like only Jason Hickel says, or is that a pretty widely accepted thing? It wouldn't surprise me if it was more widely accepted, but you know, what's up, Big Jerry? It's not super clear to me they need to, like, strictly speaking, industrialize. And I think that's also evidenced by the fact that, at least for some period of time, the relative gap between most African countries and the Western developed nations has been decreasing. So clearly something can go right without it. Or without, like, well, obviously some of them did industrialize to some extent, right? But it's not fun. DSA, I'm not. Welcome back, Quantum Traveler. Bricking says tough on it if you're skeptical. I'm not that skeptical of the skeptical of what? Of the like needing to industrialize, or just of the terms of trade thing? I'm not that skeptical of the terms of trade thing. That seems to make sense to me. It's just that I don't know. I don't think I've read anything specifically about that. But I'm more skeptical of the need to industrialize thing. Inflows, private grants, decrease in international reserve holdings, loans to government, loans to private sector, net portfolio equity, illegal logging, illegal fishing. Okay, is this like loss? Are they calculating lost trade revenue or like tax revenue, or are they calculating? They said like climate change adaptation cost. Is that like actually money spent by the government, or is that just like a estimate for the sort of broader statistical value of those things? Because I imagine it's like the second one, but I think that's going to be unfair because I'm sure there are all these like negative externalities that cost some equivalence in amount of money from illegal logging and illegal fishing. Also brain drain. Cool. But there's probably a lot of like positive externalities, or like not necessarily externalities, but like just positive things that happen from like FDI that are not measured in this number itself, right? Like where like obviously more than just the actual money the company's investing matters in a more broader sense. It's the fact that they're probably getting people there to be more skilled laborers to some extent. They're probably like it tends to be the case that they raise the productivity of at least the workers there, and they're probably like local spillovers to that. The fact that in some cases there's like physical capital there also matters, right? What's climate change mitigation cost? I'm assuming it's like an estimate of how much they have spent or will spend because of climate change. But I don't know if they specify. I don't see infrastructure on this. Well, I don't know why they would. Well, that might count in. That might be in F Well, this is loans to private sectors, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe loans to go, because I would imagine like most infrastructure that's like a wealth inflow or whatever would be like from loans that like the IMF gives them or China gives them or some other country gives them and such. Not fine. You're going to invest in the dang oat IPO, my man. Feel like I should know this if you're asking about it. And I actually don't know about it. Africa's richest man officially pulls off $2.5 billion fee. IPO equals pump and dump. Well, I know what an initial public offering is, but I don't know about Dangote Industries. I'll do it only to make this number go up, so I can stop draining Africa's wealth from them. Okay, but this just says African countries adapting to climate change, a process which has overwhelmingly been caused by richer industrialized and industrializing countries on Africa, amounting to 10.6 billion a year, but I don't know what that is like literally measuring. Then there's the concept of African migration to reorient African economies onto a low carbon path, again due to the need to tackle climate change. The annual cost is even greater, 26 billion. These costs are included since they entail expenditure of lots of resources by Africa for the process. Okay, so if we're doing stuff like this, it seems like it's probably a little unfair to not give the same type of treatment to stuff like this, which is going to have similar like positive spillovers. Well, in this case, it'd be negative spillovers or negative externalities. Hashtag what this is. Control F terms of trade. Well. Okay. As we know, it's not possible to be strict about what constitutes an inflow and outflow. Many of the inflows counted here may not constitute real inflows of resources. For example, much aid does not flow to a country, but rather to host countries, companies, or consultants, even if it is not formally tied to aid. Also, much foreign investment in African countries may not constitute a flow as such. For example, a gold mining company might invest 100 million, but spend 75 million of that on external supplies of equipment, benefiting non-African countries. True, the only person that benefits from the trade is the person who you're buying it from. Then there are no benefits from buying capital goods and using them elsewhere. That's true. That's true. This investment might still benefit a country, of course. Okay, whew. There we go. But equally can harm it, since much foreign investment can harm the environment or human rights, for example. Incredible.
Not being paid in Sudan, and yet the whole world is getting Arabic gum out of it without having to pay
That's
all
pretty
these
bad,
necessary
right? No
costs.
taxes in Sudan? Yeah, it sucks.
I didn't say no taxes in Sudan.
Well, they can't receive tax benefits. Or sorry, the
I
benefits from the
said when all of these resources are being plundered out of the continent, but then like when more money is leaving Africa.
Oh wait, sorry, I missed this. He plans on putting Dangote Cement on the London Stock Exchange, even though it's been on Nigeria for years. Oh, interesting. Sounds like some neo-British, neo-imperialist stuff to me. Sell South Africans and other Africans to spies Nigerians. I don't know enough about Africa to comment on the truth of that. I have no clue.
Then entering it It's a lie to claim that the world is not dependent on it. It is. The world is dependent on the destabilization of the African continent. It is dependent on the destabilization of the global south. Hence why, if it was not dependent, the West would not be there. Let's stop pretending as if the West is only there because they're altruistic and humanitarian and care about human rights, and that's why they go around cooing Haitian leaders.
That's why they go around
and
saving 90 million people over the last couple of decades. Yeah, true. But that's why they saved 90 million people over the last couple of decades. So how much money leaves? How much money is extracted from Africa? Can you tell me again?
I said when we talk about specifically those tax havens, at least $203 billion. Like for example, when we take the year 2015.
What will we do with all that money? Jesus.
160.
Wait, I mean, first of all, yeah, like even the amount she's citing for being extracted off of Africa, it's like we have like Jeff Bezos is worth more than is worth more than the total amount. But regardless of that, I don't even think like tax havens. That's lost tax revenue, and that can be bad. But like extraction. Africa is so rich. De Beers stopped production. Will not mine another. Oh, De Beers stopped production. Will not mine another diamond from its Vienta mines. They're losing billions a year due to collapsing global market. I mean, I don't know. It was my understanding that De Beers is still operating. Maybe they're not literally mining anymore, but don't they own or at least not in Africa? Don't they own a mine in Canada at least? Seems like it. I think is this at Canada or is this at? Yeah.
Events at least 200.
Hanania interviewed a GP candidate for Cali governor, and they spent the first part arguing about zoning. Everyone knows the suburbs were divine. Oh no.
$103 billion.
Oh no.
Like, for example, when we take the year 2015.
What was their? What did they say? The GP candidate for Cali governor. That's a he, right? Yeah.
2015.
What will we do without that money? Jesus.
162 billion. It's not only money; it's resources as well.
God. What will we do without that? This is so true. 200.
Which is accounted for in the figure. They're literally directly accounting for the resources. They said like, oh, the reason we count some of these things as like climate change costs or whatever, because it represents resources being that's in the figure you cited already.
$3 billion. Do you know how big the global economy is? Are you dead ass right now?
This is only specifically in money being illegally moved. You have
illegally, which by the way nobody sees the benefits from. That's really bad.
You have resources.
Well, the firm owner.
That are also you have resources. You're sitting on your fucking phone because Congolese people are dying. I don't know why the fuck you're sitting here.
Stop fucking virtue signaling. You don't give a shit about that.
Bro.
I'm not. You're pretending.
You're just mad that you don't know anything about economics. It's not my fault.
You're pretending as if the world.
It doesn't benefit. No.
When 360 people are sitting on our phones because Congolese people are dying.
Okay, I'm curious. Okay, let's just try our hardest to engage with this. I know you've been incapable of doing so every single time we have a conversation.
I'm not being incapable. I'm actually.
You don't even know what I'm going to ask you, bro. You don't have the foresight to know what I'm going to say before I say it. But just really quick, I'm curious. So say that there was an Africa that was developed, that was wealthy, that had fully educated groups of people, that didn't require money from other countries through global health initiatives and 350.
So they wanted decentralized control, and Hanania said he believed in a free market.
Salaries that we have to pay across 50 different fucking countries to try and keep babies alive. Don't you think that would be better for the world? Because they can keep their $200 billion fucking dollars. They'd be generating trillions of dollars. No.
The stable Africa is not beneficial for the global economy.
Wait, no, okay, I'm asking you a question. How wealthy do you think a stable Africa would be? It'd be generating trillions, tens of trillions of dollars in economic output, trading with countries across.
Yeah, but could the West, could they exploit them anymore?
The globe. How would that not be beneficial for the global economy?
You know the economists don't agree with you, right?
Is this Nalfon's new hero? I mean, it's not my new hero or anything. It's just interesting to watch him have these discussions.
Okay, tell me why you disagree, bro.
They disagree with you because they realize that Africa needs to be destabilized. It needs to
You're
stay
just not
destabilized.
addressing that. You're just saying, oh, the political authority, some random communist out there.
I'm saying having to engage in an equal trade deal where you have to pay people a fair wage, a living wage. You have to pay people the same type of production value that they're putting into it is going to be expensive for you.
Same type of production value they're getting into it. What's that mean?
Is it better for?
Can't wait till I see let this TikToker gets humbled by Nonfon. Well, I did upload that. I don't think I had a title exactly that. I did upload the video of me talking to one dude. TikTok just kicked me for citing actual data. There's like 3 different versions of the title, but they're all like kind of clickbait like that.
A thief to break into a home and steal their shit for free? Or is it better for me to go and...
Can't address
no, it's an example. Is it cheaper for me to go to a yard sale? Hold on. Is it cheaper for me to go to a yard sale and have to pay for some shit? Or is it cheaper for me to break into their home and steal their stuff for free? And that's what the West does. The West is stealing stuff for free. And the thing is...
True. So there's like, I think partly the same thing the Will Talks guy kind of did. There's probably some type of distinction between like what would benefit the capitalist class versus what will benefit given individuals. It's obviously possible for given individuals to benefit from like being able to steal from Africa, right? Like it's a case that there are literally certain individuals that benefit from that now, but probably the capitalist class and Western nations as a whole would benefit from an Africa that is more productive, that can produce more things with less resources, right? That's probably what most of the capitalist class wants. Because many of the gains from that would indeed go to them, right? So, you know, maybe we should consider that. The US used to own all the diamond mines, but now Botswana owns 15%. Yeah, it's my understanding the US has not had a full-on monopoly or anything on diamonds for a while by now. France kind of, but that's because they're, oh yeah. Well, technically, France still has, they still have 14 countries on the colonial currency. Wow. Which I think is just like pegged to there. Or to the euro. Yeah, pegged to the euro.
And the thing is, by your logic, if the West did not think that destabilization was important, then it would have not destabilized. It would have left.
I believe she does.
Why haven't they left?
I'm actually factoring the risk. It's cheaper to just buy it. That's probably true as well. The net,
Trading profits and illegal.
I might not use the term marked in this video, but it's my interest. I thought she was, because I don't know this girl by name, but I'm pretty sure I've seen her around. On my look at the YouTube comments, I recognize the voice, the moron. Yeah. I recognize it now. Yeah, that girl. Loner Box debated for like 4 hours on Israel Vows. I said, yeah, I know what you're. Yeah, I think I called in to that stream after. I remember that.
I'm confused. Why haven't they left these countries?
Why hasn't who left?
Why has the West not left these
Who's the
countries?
West? Like what in particular? Like global health initiatives?
Western countries.
Okay, when you mean Western countries, do you mean Western corporations? Do you mean Western global health initiatives?
Western corporations, the IMF, World Bank, all these Western corporations, the Western military interventions. You have freaking the French have the CFA franc and former colonial.
Pre-watched. I mean, I did literally pre-watch some of it, but not that far. We've gone past all the parts I've pre-watched. You mean Letterboxd, who got his ads handed to him by? Is this up for free? I mean, I know it's for the members or whatever, but is there a free video of it somewhere by now?
Countries where the bank in Paris rakes up billions of euros every year because of this currency. Why is the West not leaving if it's not beneficial? I understand that you're trying to.
I don't know how much. Who's Rob? Rob Noor. He's like a MAGA Trump supporter dude. You can't pay $15 for the. I don't want to pay $15 just to watch like 3 videos that I would want to watch. I could, but like, I don't really wanna. When they are going to be available for free at some point, I imagine.
Answer your question before you address any of mine. I'm sorry.
I am addressing every single question.
You're running, bro, because you know it's stupid.
It's not my fault that you lack.
Your position's ridiculous. Are you going to sell my intelligence now? The fact that, are you denying that Africa that is developed would be more beneficial to the global economy, yes or no?
No, I said no.
Okay, tell me the rationale there. And appeal to the economists. No, you didn't. You're saying it's cheaper. You're saying it's cheaper, and that you can break into a home and you can get the goods for free. Yes. I'm sorry to break it to you. Let's think about that. Let's think about
the IMF has legitimately gone woke. I know. They yap about inclusive growth now. Prime IMF wouldn't have done this. No, yeah, they've been, and I don't know if they recognize this or whatever. But there's a lot of IMF economists and official IMF reports out there you can find, even being critical of, I don't know if they're like explicitly critical of the IMF's old action itself, but being critical of like the Washington consensus, being critical of many of the structural, reforms or whatever. Like, IMF literally gone woke.
Society, where instead of making businesses, where instead of working jobs and generating money to go purchase goods at a store, you stole goods from other people's homes. Would that be a good society? Probably not. In the same way that when you go to, I'm not done talking, when you go to a different continent and you kill people and you destabilize governments, and then you have to have global health initiatives for decades to save tens of millions of people, when you have to have the NATO coalition come together to stop the flow of immigrants through fucking bodies of water, and you have to hold a bunch of asylum seekers, and you have to have a bunch of refugees, none of those things are beneficial because you're losing out on trillions of fucking dollars of economic productivity that you would have had otherwise if this country was developed. They're denying that to be the case. You said that economists are saying this. What economist is saying this? I'm curious to know if a single
Jason Nickel
argument that in more developed Africa would be less beneficial for the global economy. Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, give me a second. Hold on. I'll play the economist, Dr. Howard Nichols, actually. Give me a second.
I do not. I don't recognize the name. My prediction is at best he has a 4-year econ degree. That's my prediction. Sri Lankan economist. Okay, you got some academic papers. Okay, there's that. Does it say his education anywhere? Peace Code doing a thing right now? Talking to the usurp guy or whatever? I don't like it. Oh boy. Okay, this guy does look like a how good is this H index? I don't actually remember. How 6 is not that good, right? I don't actually remember what the good and bad H index scores are. But 6 is pretty low, right? He does look like an actual, that's a different guy. Actual economist. Okay, he's got papers about economics and stuff. That's better than I expected. Depends on the subfield. Is there any millionaire Marxist? First thing it comes up is Marx. Not that surprising. He's heterodox. Yeah, but I expected worse than like heterodox economists. Okay.
No study, no nothing. True. We're just going to play a cool quote.
I have been giving you sources and studies. It's not my fault.
No, you're not giving me a study for this in particular. That's like the central piece of my argument.
I have literally cited a study of how more money leaves Africa than enters it.
That didn't answer my question.
Do we even count it as a study? Do we even count that type of thing as it's like a report? It's like a report. The International Institute of Social Studies, the Hague. Oh wait. It calls them economists and social scientists. Did he not go to, does he actually not have an econ degree? Is it just Sri Lankan? Well, that part I know. Oh, degrees. Doesn't tell me what it's in. But he does have a PhD. Like 8 minutes behind. Is it fair for her to compare macro and micro like that? Yard sale example. So
probably technically not, but because they're not being very particular about what exactly they mean by money entering and leaving a country, it doesn't really matter that much. But probably technically, you know, you can't infer general equilibrium effects from partial equilibrium model. The point I'm gesturing at is that he's very clearly part of the Uberist Uber. Yeah. To be clear, this is clear to me based on even, all this stuff. My prediction was, at best, he has a 4-year econ degree, which I don't actually know if he does or not. Nothing I said what his degree was in, but it does seem like he has like academic papers published in like economic stuff. Okay. I was expecting like, AOC level, like a 4-year degree in, philosophy, politics, and economics, but he's more serious than that.
Shit, I'm telling you whether it'd be beneficial if it was economically developed for the global economy.
So that's why you asked me for an economist, so I'm giving you an economist, Dr. Howard
economist
Nichols.
quote and not like their findings or their school of thought or what they believe in.
Yes, I can give you the exact words of the economist, Dr. Howard Nichols. Give me a second.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
And also, by the way, I know he asked for an economist and stuff or whatever, but like, to be clear, this girl probably does not think economics is like a real field at all. Like, this is the one good economist. Okay, there's like 5 good economists. Okay, Marx, Jason Hickel, this dude, maybe what's his name? South Korean economist guy, writes some slop about free trade and stuff. He wrote 23 Myths About Capitalism. He wrote Bad Samaritans. Haju Chang, is that what it is? Whatever. I need a 5th one. Not even cockshow. Oh wait. Post. Only modern era. Stiglitz. Modern Stiglitz. Weber isn't? Am I thinking of the wrong guy? Keen. Oh, Steve Keen. I don't even know. Steve Keen doesn't do things to this extent. I'm learning econ is too orthodox for her. Yeah. Is it Michael? I might not know. I'm thinking. Oh wait, I might be thinking of. I'm thinking of the guy who wrote the response. One of the responses to Stop Mike is my favorite economist. Vosh is my favorite economist. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The greedflation girl. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking of Mike Wabe or something or whatever. I'm in public school finance because I be in fit. Easy. Okay, Zuckaim. Oh my God, is in 5th. Yeah. I was thinking of whoever wrote one of the replies to the Weiland paper on housing prices. The supply constraints do not explain housing prices. I was thinking of him, but I think his last name is Weeb or something. You know the Israeli dude who always trolls you in chat? Ian Hartman. What do you think about the eggs news? Is there news with eggs I should be aware of? Doesn't stick in a crown. Oh, salmonella? I don't know. Seems bad, I guess, or good because less people will buy eggs and therefore less chickens will suffer for some amount of time.
Why you're acting like this, bro? You can have like an
easy kuchime.
adult conversation.
As I keep wanting to say easy just because easy is that's I'm a gamer in me. Ian lambasted you for not understanding risk rating once. Yeah, he's a little goofy.
It's like, I don't know, I'm a little tired of all
All right, who keeps pooping on the land?
my life, so I'm a little
They're not. How are you putting that blame on me? I'm confused.
Yeah, because you guys claim I'm a white supremacist, fucking slave,
How are you putting the blame on me?
pro-slavery,
How do you even know that my
rape
followers?
apologist. Well, ever since you
Have you read like a single Spanish word right? Dude, I don't read English words right.
arrived, guess what? I guess it was just a coincidence. True, bro.
Now I'm getting the Kamala Harris treatment of blaming me for shit I did not do. That's crazy.
I don't know. I think it's totally reasonable, given the fact you're incredibly condescending, trying to discredit me. No, it is. Given the fact you're incredibly condescending, trying to discredit me all the time and paint me out as the devil, for me to be a little reprehensible. I just think, like,
yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think I uphold white supremacy?
When you support NATO and Western imperialism,
Yeah,
yes.
so, do you think I support genocides overseas?
I just said yes. When you support these
Do
institutions,
you think I'm in favor of killing millions of people in exchange for economic benefits?
when you support these institutions,
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, in what world does that not paint me out as the devil?
you could do better.
Yeah. No. I just think that you're
Incredible. Incredible.
I am addressing every.
She never got the. Are we gonna get the quote? I'm so excited to hear the quote. What MAGA hat is that? I know it looks like it's my fucking hat for my job. I work at Cheats. It's a red hat. I know it kind of does look like a MAGA hat, but it's not a MAGA. It's not a MAGA hat. Okay. What's the point of this argument? What's the point of any argument? I don't know. Okay, I think it looks good there in the back of stream, and my door is like right there, so I remember to actually take it when I go leave for my job, and I don't forget my hat and my name tag that's on it. You said argue the basics of why she thinks you're the devil. Typical liberal avoiding the premise. I don't think that's I don't think it's unfair for David Day because she does paint, or like the leftist people generally have been painting David as the devil, post the will debate or whatever. And I think there was something like it wasn't just like totally unprompted, right?
You're not providing me with the source.
I think he said
You can have like a normal adult conversation.
Yeah, true, bro. It's just like, I don't know. I'm a little tired of all your fucking followers coming on here telling me to take my life, so I'm a little.
They're not. How are you putting that blame on me? I'm confused.
Yeah, because you guys claim I'm a white.
Like he mentioned the harassment or whatever first. Do you ever go to work in a shrimp costume? I'm not. I don't think they would like that. I got leftist fatigue, but it took longer than MAGA fatigue. I'm world fatigued. For real.
You can have like a normal adult conversation.
Yeah, true, bro. It's just like, I don't know. I'm a little tired of all your fucking followers coming on here telling me to take my life, so I'm a little.
They're not. How are you putting that blame on me?
Post elephant graph. Why do you hate the global poor?
I'm confused.
Yeah, because
not funny. You could wear that at a seafood boil restaurant. Evil, horrible. I mean, Sheets does sell meat. I don't think they have any shrimp. I'm 90% certain they don't have shrimp. I should probably know that, considering I work there and make food for people. But
because you guys claim I'm a white supremacist, fucking slave, pro-slavery, rape apologist. Well,
just to basically claim that it's upholding white supremacy. But I don't think, like, I don't know if I would have done it or whatever. Like, probably technically it's optimal debate if both sides are like truly big, like respectful and honest and everything. But I think that's like not the case here, and it's like, I don't know, not unfair to discuss that. I mean, she asked, how are you pinning the blame on me for what, for her audience, or if not just her audience, the broader kind of leftist people, what they're saying about him, and he's elaborating on that. He's saying you're clearly painting me as like devil who upholds white supremacy and genocide and all these like evil things. Like what do you expect? Like, oh.
Since you arrived, guess what? I guess it was just a coincidence. True, bro.
Now I'm getting the Kamala Harris treatment of blaming me for shit I did not do. That's crazy.
I don't know. I think it's totally reasonable, given the fact you're incredibly condescending.
No, it's not.
No, it is. Given the fact you're incredibly condescending, trying to discredit me all the time and paint me out as the devil, for me to be a little.
I the devil, but I just think like, yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think I uphold white supremacy?
But I do want the quote.
Who does that benefit?
Trillions, tens of trillions of dollars in goods. Cool and quippy, instead of actually trying to theoretically engage with the idea of an Africa.
Has she still not found the quote, bro?
Developed and producing trillions.
Is that hard to find?
So when you're smuggling resources out and selling them at steep discounts, who does that benefit?
What does steep discounts mean? Problem here is leftists are retarded in bad faith. Yeah, especially TikTok leftists. That's a logical Marxist claim. No, what, that he's upholding white supremacy? I think that is. Like she said, yeah, she's claiming that. she doesn't like deny that or anything. And but the point, like that was the supporting point that she agreed to for the thing that they were discussing there, which is the, like, you know, David blaming her for whatever amount of, like, I say harassment. I don't know if he uses the word harassment or whatever. Like, don't take harassment to mean like horrible, evil, crazy stuff or whatever, but, you know, online harassment towards him. When I first saw Nafon, I didn't know the difference between lib and leftist. Well, now you know. I'm a bit of an educator, one might say.
When you're smuggling resources out of
I've already addressed this a million times. It's not a conversation, bro.
You haven't. Again, I'm telling you. When we look at, for example, Eastern Congo, a majority of the resources there are often they're mined informally.
Well, you know, actually, what are your opinions on Russia, Ukraine? I wonder actually.
Who need quick capital,
the same
right?
thing.
So
Like what?
I'm
Bro,
not repeating the same thing.
I want you to explain to me. No.
Can I
I
respond?
just no. I'm not going to let this go on and like you just continue to not address what I'm saying.
I'm literally addressing
No,
your
you're
points.
not. Just trying to get you this theoretically directly, please. Let's try and do this. Africa that is developed. Explain to me how that would not be beneficial to the United States of America or Western countries, given the fact that we trade, we benefit primarily from developed nations.
Because a stable Africa means that you have to pay them equal, fair value.
Okay, sure.
And equal fair value means that you're not able. Can I please, for the love?
Wait, by her standards, why would a developed Africa pay people a fair wage as opposed to an undeveloped Africa? I would have guessed that by her standards, most people in the developed world are not paid a fair wage, and that they are not paid all of their labor value, right? It certainly would be the case if Africa was developed by her standards. They would also not be paid all of their labor value, right? They might even like they would. This is the point Cockshot makes. Yeah, they might even be paid. I don't know if Marx would predict this or not, but like less as a proportion of their total income or of the total like socially necessary, you know, labor value of their labor value. If they're developed and selling for higher prices and such. It's actually pre-Marxist notion that Marx specifically denies. Whoa.
Okay, sure.
An equal fair value means that you're not able. Can I please, for the love of God, bro?
I'm sorry, dude. It's just you like.
Can I please respond? Because you asked me to engage, and you're not allowing me to engage.
Okay,
a weak or a debt-burdened state cannot negotiate fair contracts. So when you have these foreign corporations, they can secure highly asymmetrical extraction licenses and actively monopolize massive resource deposits without the obligation to build local infrastructure, to process materials domestically, or to share equity with the host nation. A stable African.
Why the process? Process it domestically for?
To build local infrastructure.
Bro, if they were processing it domestically, you know what it would be like resource refining, like a lot of metal refining is like very like energy intensive stuff. Bro, if they were processing it domestically, the complaint would be like, oh, it would be like the same shit with data centers. These foreign companies are like using up all Africa's electricity because they're doing all this mineral refining like locally, like bro, like they'd be complaining about that.
Structure and actively monopolize.
Like the other stuff, like I'm sure there are plenty of issues with like taxes, primarily because of just the low state capacity and the amount of corruption in Africa. If it's bad, you should fix that.
Massive resource deposits without the obligation to build local infrastructure.
Isn't even Lenin, and Lenin Lenin is a sketchy iteration on Marx. It's just straight up anti-Marx.
Materials domestically or to share.
Well, maybe she's well, I don't know. She's I don't know if any school of any more formal school of leftist thought would do what she's doing. The developed African government would obviously demand greater value for capture for their resources. Wow. I didn't consider this easy money. That's crazy. Wow. You've just changed my view. To be clear, easy money, it's not. Is it your view that on net, Western nations would not benefit from a developed African continent? And I don't even like that, like, would obviously demand a greater value capture for their resources. Depending on, I don't even like somewhat of framing of that because like obviously there's some amount of like actual kind of negotiation happens there. I'm just trying to steel man. I just don't think that point is, I mean, I already like, she's raised that point directly. And I feel like like address that. I don't know, but like, you know, say, when it comes to like natural resources, obviously like the fixed supply of that or whatever, right? But regardless of the natural resource case, like the reason wages and such go up for countries that are developing is largely because productivity goes up, and that means you're getting more, right? Like the country's producing more, so it's not like the prices are just like artificially high. They're high because the country's producing more. So that like you can get more as well.
Share equity with the host nation. A stable African country would have the leverage to be able to negotiate fair trade deals or fair contracts. But when we look at, for example, when the United States waltzed into...
Wasn't the Red Terror 100 times worse than ICE? Like our ICE? I don't know if maybe?
Congo and claimed that it was trying to achieve peace between Congo and Rwanda, but then it then decided, like, I don't know, I'm going to take like 40% or 30% stake or control in all of these mines in Eastern Congo. Congo, because it is weak, because it's debt burdened, because it's destabilized, cannot say, fuck no, I don't want you to do that. No, it has to agree with it. And also with the debt agenda, but then it then decided, like, I don't know, I'm go and claimed that it was trying to achieve peace between Congo and Rwanda, but then it then decided, like, I don't know, I'm going to take like 40% or 30% stake or control.
Question mark? What? Alpha mentioned 3 ideas to drastically reduce corruption. I don't know. You have to, like, the issue is, I'm gonna say like strong institutions, but that's kind of like a cucked answer. I don't know. You have to have some amount of like societal trust. How you establish that is hard, and especially like in African nations, a lot of times like kinship is like a much bigger deal than it is here. So people are like more trustworthy of their family, but less trustworthy of people outside their family. Yeah, I don't know. You have to have societal trust. You have to have good, like, strong institutions in the sense that, like, they're transparent to some degree. People know probably what's going on, and there are like actual checks and balances, and like there are social and institutional consequences for taking bribes and such. Tribalism is so ingrained in culture. Regime change won't do much. Oh my God, I can't speak. Yeah. I don't think regime change alone would do it, but like it's good. Like the issue is it's, you know, reinforcing cycle that the weak institutions cause like a lack of, or cause distrust, which also causes weak institution. Like
control in all of these mines in Eastern Congo. Congo, because it is weak, because it's debt burdened, because it's destabilized, cannot say, fuck no, I don't want you to do that. No, it has to agree with it. And also within these conflict zones, because the resources are often mined informally or illegally, this creates a shadow economy where you have high value critical minerals like cobalt, like coltan, like gold, which are being smuggled out and sold at steep discounts. The person, the entity, the country that is buying these things.
No, what does steep discounts mean? Relative just to what they would get it, like if they were a developed country?
At cheap, discounted price is benefiting. The one that is not benefiting is the country. And also, when you have middlemen within these destabilized countries, and they can actively purchase cheap conflict minerals, which are then laundered into the global market to produce smartphones, to produce electric vehicles, to produce defense technology that the American government so very loves. Those corporations have plausible deniability. The plausible deniability can shield these corporations from any type of legal or ethical repercussion because they can say, well, it wasn't us, it was the middlemen who sold us this. We didn't do anything. And of course, the weak or debt-burdened country.
To be clear, the deal she's discussing is one where the mines are given legal deals to do this above board. Yeah, but 40% stake, evil, horrible. Which, like, it might, like, I don't know, like, it could be, I don't know if I would say it's not that bad, but it could be like bad, you know. I don't think we should be taking a stake in like Ukraine's minerals or mines or anything really. I don't know necessarily if doing so is really necessary to help stuff here or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's no world where, no, we're not. Oh, what? It's company permits. Oh, so she's just like making the stake thing up. Oh, incredible. Huge. We need the minerals and electrolytes. Well, you know, fine to buy minerals and stuff from Ukraine. I just think it's like a little bad to like cut off intelligence sharing from Ukraine so that you can get Zelensky to sign your deal where we take 50% or whatever fucking stake in the mining that Ukraine does. You know, probably not what we want to extract from our allies. Well, Congo in return receives U.S. support for development of key infrastructure. American companies applying to go to Congo, in part due to high levels of insecurity and corruption, avoided long filled by Chinese companies. But China would never exploit them, right? It's the West, okay? It's the we don't count any of the China stuff as exploitation, do we?
Cannot implement its labor laws. It cannot implement any type of laws because it's weak. It is destabilized. It doesn't have a leverage within these trade deals. And so Western countries historically know that this benefits them, which is why whenever a leader like Thomas...
Do you know what the saying go along to get along refers to? No. I say that local nepotism and short-term thinking can be broken only by implanting new states that are disconnected from local dynamics influence. That's the the last half of that message is gibberish to me. I don't know what that means. Hassan equals to anti-nepo baby. True.
Sankara in the 1980s stood up and said, no.
It's the DRC government giving these permits, hoping Trump will... it will get Trump to protect U.S. companies' investments against Rwanda effectively. Yeah.
Resources. I want Burkinabe people to benefit most off of this. They were like, fuck no, and they went and they got him assassinated. Every single time an African leader has stood up and said, I want to nationalize my resources so that African countries can equally benefit from this, economically, they have been assassinated, which continues upholding this extractive...
It cannot be the case that literally every time this happened, right? Because there has to be at least one example. At least one example of a currently nationalized and, you know, been nationalized for some time natural resource extraction operation in Africa, right? I think Chad did actually have a coup, so this is going to epically support her point, I think, actually. But didn't Chad nationalize its oil? And then I think there might have been a coup after this. This was 2023. Was there a coup after 2023? The military junta led by that guy who seized power following his father's death, consolidated through a controlled political transition. Okay, so it doesn't seem like it. Shouldn't the U.S. nationalize its oil? Probably not. I mean, the current borders are due to the breakup, those trial boundaries during the colonial era. Yeah, and it's not like totally unfair to blame like some of the conflict on places based on, you know, the history of British colonial rule there. Like that's not like always totally unfair or anything, but like I don't know. I don't think that really gets to where she wants it to get to.
Unequal, exploitative exchange.
Okay, so I think this is where we're having the problem here. There is no doubt that there is a benefit. There's a benefit, right? When you get a resource and it's imported to your country one way or another and it manages to seep into global supply chains. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing what would be better. Would it be better to extract $208 billion that they lose out on every single year as a result of tax
I meant in response to the go along. Oh, okay.
Etc. Or would it be better to have a consumer base of hundreds of millions of people, firms that are very wealthy, states that are very capable, that can trade with the United States, purchase our goods, etc. What do you think would be better for the global economy?
For Africa, that would be better. For the West and the global economy, that would not be better. For the West and the global, when we have, according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Africa loses an estimated $88.6 billion every single year to illicit cargo flight. This represents about 3.7% of the continent's total GDP. And the vast majority of these flows, about 65%, originate from illegal commercial practices and aggressive tax planning, right? So, and then you have on top of that foreign corporations that routinely are actively using accounting mechanisms to shift their profits that are generated in Africa to low or no tax jurisdictions, which means this tax avoidance is costing Africa an extra 1 to 6% of its GDP annually. And on top of that, which is the most financial benefit for the West, right, is from locking Africa into this bottom of the global value.
Indonesia banned nickel ore exports to spur investment, and it largely worked. Well, to spur investment into domestic nickel ore manufacturing, or what?
Congo, because they're experiencing a genocide where they lost about 10 million people since 1998 alone. When Congo is producing roughly 70 to 80% of the world's cobalt, the high value manufacturing and refining is not happening in Africa, which means when you're preventing the industrialization in Africa, you are continuing to exacerbate the instability. When you're refusing to give people
that's not obviously, I don't think that's true and stuff, but regardless of that, even if that were true, that's not David's point. His point is that, it would be beneficial if Africa were developed. That the benefits of that to Western nations would far exceed whatever benefits they get now in terms of tax avoidance and resource extraction.
You know how I know this as well? Because they're building a paramilitary unit. The US and the UAE this year alone are working with the puppet government in Congo, which again, as I told you, because it's destabilized and debt ridden, it doesn't even have the chance or leverage to say anything or to go against it. But they're basically sending about 3,000 to 28,000 armed recruits from elsewhere to fucking Congo to guard the mines.
I'm not questioning these things, but
that's not like that. That's not like that. Hasn't the Wagner Group how long have they been in Africa? I don't know how many of them there are, but the Wagner Group, did their whole march to Moscow stuff partly because they didn't want to go to Ukraine. They wanted to just be in Africa, right? Kind of the nickel processing in Indonesia is largely run by a Chinese firm that still owns much of it and still control all the complicated production with the Chinese immigrant workers. They're actively not training Indonesian workers on the more complicated bits. I actually looked into this last month, LMFAO. Interesting. I don't know if it has a total number here anywhere or whatever, but it's at least a few hundred of them.
But I have a question for you. So the entire West, earlier you said, makes around $208 billion from Africa as a result of extracting their goods.
No, that was specifically only for the illicit tax flow.
Give me the total number.
Oh, I don't know how much the total number is.
Okay, so from that.
She gave it earlier. The 162 billion? Oh no, 203 billion? It's 203 billion.
Tax flow alone.
And that includes, just to be clear, that's including the tax, lost tax revenue. Either directly through multinationals repatriating profits and illegally moving money into tax havens, or by the climate change stuff.
The money that we generate from Canada is 420 some billion fucking dollars.
We're talking about resources as well.
continent. Resources are not that expensive.
They're included in the number she cited earlier. The resources and the cost of illegal mining and climate change effects on the natural resources as well.
Dude, resources are not that expensive. Resources are inputs in a supply chain to produce a good that is very sophisticated. Those two things, I don't know why we're mentioning resources, would drastically increase the total figure here. But it's important to recognize that with one country alone, we get double from all the private corporations that are exploiting Africa, double from one country. Don't you think if a continent with a shit ton of countries was developed and not destabilized and not struggling, imagine the money, imagine the wealth, imagine the exchange of services, imagine the exchange of goods. In what reality is that not beneficial for the American or Western economy?
And there's a more, general point there. If you just look at like OEC, USA imports. Why does it come off of Iran's? Why does it say Iran? Whatever. Like I want to say the top 5 countries that the U.S. like imports from is like China, Canada, Mexico, maybe Japan. These are all like developed countries. Let's see, how many did I get? These are export destinations. Where's our imports? Oh, imports. When you can look much the same, yeah. China, Mexico, Canada, Japan, Vietnam, India. Vietnam and India are like not that developed, but our exports, similar story. Mexico, Canada, China, Japan, South Korea, Germany, France, Netherlands. In fairness, you probably wouldn't expect them to buy many of our exports, but it's not like we get a lot of inputs from them. Like this is all of Africa. And then South Africa, I guess South Africa's GDP per capita is not that high, right? Yeah. Curtis' definition of more developed nation, of a more developed nation, is have more consumers. How about having better standards of living? Not just, the definition of developed nation is usually just based on GDP per capita for the most part. That's what the IMF uses, I believe. Or the world, is it IMF or the World Bank? I think it's IMF. IMF, I think the IMF classification is, yeah. Or maybe it's World Bank. No, it's World Bank or whatever. This is just based on GDP or GNI per capita. It's not really based on strictly consumers or wages or anything, but like, that someone's consumption is someone else's wage, right? So, it can be someone else's like capital income and stuff as well. But like
I keep answering
GDP is equal to income, right? So
this question.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You
don't. No,
I
you
keep
don't.
answering
You
this
don't answer
question.
the question, bro.
I keep answering this question because currently, right? That 88 billion or whatever it is that I was talking about, that is specifically when it comes to illicit tax flows, right? But when we talk about the resources as well, all these tech barons, Apple, other companies, defense technology, they benefit off of those resources. Like when
I'm
you're
not questioning that, dude. You're repeating the same.
So again, my point is they don't have to pay for it. They don't have to pay for it. How is that hard to understand?
I already told you this.
If you have 1 second, if you have a stable partner that is able to negotiate and has a leverage, you cannot exploit them as much as possible. Whereas now the entire world is exploiting the African continent as much as possible.
Okay, what percentage of US GDP is brought about as a result of the exploitation of the African continent?
Oh my God. I can look it up. I don't know exactly how much.
All of it. 80%.
Wait, I'm sorry. To understand your argument again, are you saying that the West does not benefit off of a destabilized Africa?
That's the problem. We're having two different conversations.
No, I'm asking you a question.
I already answered the question earlier. I don't know if you remember, but we're having two different conversations. A question of benefit and a question of what is better. There's a benefit. There's a benefit when you go to war. That doesn't mean war is beneficial for everything in general, right? So, for example, obviously Palantir is going to make money off of government contracts, but simply because there's a benefit for one government corporation doesn't mean it's beneficial for the economy by and large. So, in the same way that there's going to be a benefit from things like the cobalt mines in the Congo, that doesn't mean whether or not it's better to keep things as they are now. Or
you have a large amount of goods you can trade back, though. Yeah. Yeah.
In some respects, and bring
that's what David has mentioned a few times.
Up these economies to the stature of not even America, but a country like Canada, etc. Like,
I wonder if you could I mean, presumably someone's done it, but it'd be hard to even just make a model where if you have two countries and they both have their PPF curve or whatever. Actually, one should be way inside the other. How you could even get to a net negative if one country's PVF curve expands. Because, I mean, obviously that in the real world, other things would change, but yeah, you would have to. Presumably, someone's done it. Presumably, it's out there.
Countries in Africa, by the way, that's the conversation I'm trying to have here.
So then, why do you think America engaged in the destabilization then? If it doesn't benefit America, no. Again, if it does not benefit the West, no, this is a genuine question. If it does not benefit the West, why do they keep doing it then?
I already you can't address my question.
You haven't answered that question.
I don't think there's a single question of mine that you've actually answered.
No, I have answered every damn question. I don't know, just because you don't like my question, my answer does not mean I haven't answered it. No. I've answered every single question. If it does not benefit the West, why does the West continuously destabilize the continent then?
The West does not continuously, the United States, you have to pair the West as this big bad guy because there's a lot more complexity at play than just one active body operating with the sole purpose of destroying an entire continent. Those two things are very different.
Well, their interests are aligned. The capital class, the corporate class, they're all aligned. The Epstein class, one might say.
Benefit from exploitation of the Congo as it would if the state would be a fully developed continent. But it's just, I recognize that you feel like you've answered the question, but words that follow my question doesn't mean that it addresses the points that I made.
I am addressing your point.
You're not.
I am addressing every single point.
You can't tell me that the GDP benefit of the imports that we get from Africa. You can't tell me why it's somehow better, this current situation is better than what it would have been, say if we had a continent of over 50 countries with trillions of dollars in GDP. Those things would be drastically better for quality of life, for the spread of disease, for migration, for global economies, for global stability, for less conflict, less expenditure. In every feasible way, a developed continent and no longer a periphery easily dominated by Western companies, that would be orders
periphery
to better than the current situation.
Oh no, he's falling into the language.
So you claim that the West is not destabilizing Africa currently, or America is not destabilizing Africa.
Oh my God, literally not what he said even, but okay, I think that's basically it, but just I wanted to watch that. My guy David. I'll DM David. I'll see if he can get that girl at Will's Talks to talk to me. Could be interesting. Brookings Institute notes: get along culture in African government contributes to entrenched nepotism and perception. I mean, yeah, that's not surprising to me. I basically what I said.
I thought he was the best president of my lifetime, and when people give bad critiques, that's bad. But what am I supposed to do?
Oh, they're in a fucking Twitter space. Oh, wait, please don't have porn on my Twitter, please. Okay. Close one.
I can't shut them up. I can't kill them. What is the thing that's contradictory?
But I think that you view them as more allies than not. You know, like I think you view that space as more allied than. I'm not talking about Hassan specifically. I'm talking about the whole fucking space.
Why is Hutch so quiet?
Everyone in that space.
When you say more ally than do you just mean like more ally than MAGA? More ally than what? What's the reference point?
I mean, literally more allied than not. Like, I see them as working straight up against the Democratic Party and essentially like for the Republican Party. And I think you guys see them as like imperfect allies. And I just don't understand how you can have that perspective given their rhetoric. They're so hostile. The way they spoke about Kamala Harris, you can say that, Majority Report and Emma Vigeland did the bare minimum of saying, like, if I was in a swing state, I would vote for her. But what does that matter if you've spent months accusing her of like literally supporting genocide?
So I understand ally and enemy to be with respect to goals, right? And people are allies with respect to some goals and enemies with respect to other goals. So with respect to electing Joe Biden, many of these people were not allies. But like, in what sense are they an ally is what matters. So no, they're not allies. And so
I didn't watch the Live and Learn fight they had. I'll probably watch it off stream. I don't know. I think North was telling me about this. What's up, COVID K? I feel like if you don't support Joe Biden, you're not an ally of the Dem Party. Well, with respect to which goal? Is that Twitter Space Live? Yeah. You can't, well, actually, maybe you can listen to recordings after the fact, but it wouldn't have some of that stuff.
Okay.
It's awful, don't watch.
Okay, I mean, I think I have to just come on your stream.
Okay.
Because it's dropping frames like crazy.
I imagine it's very...
But you were like demonstrating some frustration on the
insightful.
Make sense of that. And that's where the whole conversation kind of like dropped off or whatever. So here's my response to why I'm frustrated. I was about to go into it. Like, there's two ways in which it manifests. The first is a selection of people with views. Let's call them the Wick class. And again, I like Wick personally. I'm kind of picking on him because he just has these views who take the view.
This guy isn't very great, but he's right in spirit.
Existential risk of illiberal individuals taking over the Democratic Party.
I think we're mutuals. I think he is subscribed to my YouTube channel. I think I've seen him on chat before, and I'm pretty sure he follows me on Twitter. But yeah, I've seen a little bit of stuff from him. Yeah, we are mutuals on Twitter.
That frustrates me because I think it's untrue. And I think it's like hysterical. Now,
is DSA the same as communist? So kind of. DSA is Democratic Socialist of America. And most DSA members are like, they might still self-describe as communist. I don't actually know if most self-describe as communists or not, but like are understood to be like oftentimes more moderate socialist type people than people who like self-describe as communist. But there's a lot of different DSA like sects. So DSA is a tanky organ. I assume everyone in there is a tanky. The DSA takeover seems like a myth though. I mean, Momentum, I've not commented on the broader like DSA takeover political strategy stuff or whatever. Just because I'm less interested in that stuff. That I think, I don't know. I think there is like a like clearly the DSA itself and just like DSA adjacent people and or at the very least like populist leftist people who the DSA might like they are clearly a bigger deal now than they were, even a few years ago. I mean, maybe you could argue, when Bernie was running, the DSA was bigger than it is right now, but not fun. No, what? Nah, right DSA can be sane, left DSA is nutty though. Yeah, I mean, there's like like SDLs in the DSA, right? Like, but I'm not like that. Takeover is a higher category and simply marginally bigger than yeah. So I think I haven't like watched everything on this or whatever, right? But I think like when Wick says like there's a real chance of the Democratic Party becoming like illiberal, like I don't think there's any significant chance of the Democratic Party becoming like broadly illiberal. But I do think broadly they're getting more populist. Broadly, the policy is getting like more aggressive. I don't know. I'm in a weird place because I just like I don't DSA not commies. I mean, like I said, I don't know how many members of the DSA would self-describe as commies. Certainly some of them would, but the DSA people like are concerned about electoralism in a way like a lot of like tanky people aren't and stuff. And but regardless of that, I don't know. I just don't like. I don't like I don't like even the regular Democrats. Like a lot of their like econ policy stuff. Even Joe Biden's just like. So, I especially don't like the DSAs, but like, Medicare for all versus fucking basically also Medicare for all. Like, I don't know. I don't think that as of now, the DSA is like a big deal in terms of costing Democratic votes. I think it is likely that on net, at least the like more DSA centered candidates would cost Democratic votes. Yeah, I think that'll be all that happens. The best you have is that a few extreme Democrat strongholds here or there. Some DSA candidates have won recently. That's really the most accurate description. Yeah. And I think it's like, I don't know, that DAC, I always forget her name. Her acronym's the DAC in New York. Someone endorsed it, but like she, like, I don't know how much of the nation overall knows about her, but like probably net Democrat vote loser because it just like makes their party look bad. And like I think there's some aspect of that probably with Platner to a degree and Abdul El Sayed, and I doubt Zorhan would be net negative, but I could be wrong about that. Zorhan has charisma. But I'm honestly more concerned about the like broader populist stuff than I am about the like just what I click on to just the socialist stuff. This is starting me to a DSA sect. How should DSA engage with the Democratic Party? We should have realigned towards socialism. We should organize as a faction within it. Should be open assembly and about line. Electoral work in general. As a party affiliation should be tertiary priority. Well, yeah. But yeah, there's different segments of the DSA that are more or less progressive. Like some of them voted to not endorse AOC because of her like vote to give Israel Iron Dome funding and stuff.
Why I was like kind of getting touched to show that he agreed with the rest of us that Wick was wrong about that specific fear. At least in the short to midterm, there's no real fear.
I don't think they'll take over, but I do think there are people pretending to be DSA and getting access into the Dem Party will end up hurting the Dems in general. Yeah, I expect it to some degree. I just don't know how big. It was either the Destiny drama today, the Professor Dave thing with Dave. Yeah. I didn't watch Professor Dave's full video, but I saw like a clip of it on Twitter, and then I saw a little bit of Destiny reacting to it. I don't know if Professor Dave does seem kind of insane on the Israel-Palestine issue generally, and then I think it, Destiny does some current things and all, but those two issues combined, just a total brain-breaking issue. That was a good discussion. I watched the Peace Go one on Unlimited Learn or this.
The Democratic Party is going to be taken over by illiberal forces. Real quick, that's the first set of frustration.
Just one clarification. I'm so shocked to find that Dave produced a video of that quality, out of line with what I normally believe. Well, if you pay attention, he's always been kind of, his past stuff that I've seen hasn't been like as crazy on the Israel-Palestine issue. Like he's said genocide and stuff, everything before, but it wasn't like as crazy as some of the ethnic weird shit and everything that he had in there. And then he's been like, he's said like, oh, I don't vote for Democrats anymore. I think both political parties are beholden to corporate donors and evil and yada 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 yada. Yeah. You're thinking a soy pill is the fourth guy. Live and learn. Yeah. If it's like a magical topic, people start talking about it and their IQ drops for 20 points. Yeah.
And then the second is just like, as though the conversation is centered on these vagaries that either are already happening in that people who are being said not to criticize the left are criticizing the left as appropriate, or are just like frankly meaningless virtue signals that are being demanded, and that's frustrating. But I don't like harp on how much time Hutch spends or how much time you spend attacking the left. It's not what I would do. But it's not like that is a source of frustration. So just to summarize, I know I just talked for a long time. My frustration.
Then we'll learn it's 1.5 legs on that lol.
About imminent or close to imminent or.
Hutch and here's the other one too. To be fair, do you agree with Pisco on what? I don't know if I would say I know enough about his position to give you a broad answer about like the DSA stuff. But if it's on a more narrow thing, then I might be able to tell you. IRI. You can be a liberal socialist. Oh, I gotta watch that. Ryan Getty talked to Matt McManus about that. I forgot. NT.
In the near-term future, taking over.
In this debate. I've not watched almost any of this debate yet. I was clicking to see what's happening and I went back a little bit. I don't know, like I said, I think it's very unlikely that the Democrats will like have an actual illiberal takeover. I think it is likely that many DSA candidates like are probably net negative for the Democratic Party. They might be able to win strongholds, but probably they make Democrats look worse. I think that's the case with research guys at Total Destiny cult. Despite, I mean, we're mutuals on Twitter. I know he's a Destiny fan and everything. But yeah, I think it's likely that people like DSA, people like probably Abdul Saeed too, and Plattner are probably I mean Plattner was never a DSA or anything, but probably cause Democrats net votes. Probably. But I don't know how big a deal it is. I think it's likely that people just aren't going to care about it that much outside of the states they're running in, but I could be wrong.
Over the party by liberal actors, which I think is hysterical. And then the vague critiques, what I think are like nonsense critiques that are like, you don't do X, but then X isn't defined. And I just saw you drop off the speaker, so I'm going to invite you again to speak.
Perfect. It says I'm speaker. Ooh. Hello.
Yeah, so that's it. We're just waiting for Usher to join back as a speaker.
Hello. Fuck.
I don't know if El Said wins the primary at the moment. Yeah, he might. He might not, but I don't know if he doesn't win the primary. Probably it's not going to be a big deal. You're not going to see many ads attacking him and the Democrats for having him, but we'll see.
I'm shit fucked right now, guys.
I just really am going to just demand that people clarify what they mean by that.
Hello.
Red line before what? Red line before endorsing in the general election? Red line before critiquing? Okay, if it's a red line before critiquing, I'm already critiquing. People are already critiquing. Happy to critique as appropriate, as needed. If it's a red line before, quote, treating them as an enemy.
Probably gives it a 70%. Damn. It's over. I thought Haley Stevenson's odds had gone up more, honestly. But I guess they're up quite a bit since April 26th.
Treat them as will, as needed, and I have, as needed, and as appropriate. And if there's a specific instance where there's a lack of criticism where it's due, or where individuals should be called out for not properly responding to the tanky lefty infiltration, make that critique. But please just don't like sit in these vagaries and generalities about like, I want you to treat them like the enemy. I want you to treat them as they are. I don't want you to pretend that they're part of the Democratic Party. All of these are, in my view, filler phrases that are just an attempt to like not ground down in like some concrete prescription recommendation. I just got message from Mr. Sorry, add again. Okay, adding him again.
Hello. Yeah. I think you did all agree on that. I think what people like don't understand is how it's from everyone's perspective. It just looks like you run cover sometimes. See, you don't like in my mind. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm saying I think that's what people see. People perceive you as running cover for people on the far left. One of the things that I don't necessarily may not agree with you with is how you don't think that like the liberal takeover is within a 10-year period. Like I don't think that would actually happen. I think it might take a little bit longer, but I could easily see within 15, 20 years a liberal takeover of the Democratic Party. I mean, we just saw in real time a liberal takeover of the Republican Party in less than 10 years. I mean, you can in some ways say the Tea Party movement was the beginning of what eventually led to Trump. And I think the Tea Party started in 2006, 2009, and by 2016 we had Trump in office already. So like I think we should we take for granted how fast things can change in U.S. politics and just in life in general. Like 4 years, each election cycle is a long time. Like a lot of things can happen in a short amount of time, and I don't think that we should just treat what's obviously an intentional, deliberate attempt to usurp the Democratic Party and just treat it like it's a joke. And I think when you get, not jump down people's throat, but when you get on people who try to bring up that threat and reinforce that threat and talk about it, it seems as if you don't want to have a discussion or that time's wasted. And I do think, because in my mind, on a scale of 1 to 100, where would you rank from 1 being best to 100 being the worst? Where would you rank communism, Nazism, and fascism?
I mean, I think.
Oh boy.
I mean, relative to their ability to gain power, relative to their ideology.
He doesn't call guys anything about the positions. It's just all random slogans from the leader. Guy can't even clarify it when Pisco asks.
Which one rank them the worst, from best to worst? And you're in an American
I don't want to say mean things.
version of that system. The strongest America is.
I don't know. I've seen him do fine in some debates before, I guess. I don't know. I have no, obviously, I've seen his Twitter page. It does just seem like he says the same thing as he says, but whatever. Okay.
Example of Nazism that we have of specific Nazism is Hitler and the Third Reich. Okay, I think that's a pretty shit place to live, given that the war, maybe there's some period of growth or whatever, and this is again applying only to German citizens, obviously not Jews and other types of minorities and people who were discriminated against in the regime. But eventually the war came back to Germany and destroyed hundreds of thousands of people that died, obviously. And so I really wouldn't want to live in.
System, the war,
That's what I'm asking. You're asking, would you want to live in a Nazi system?
I'm not asking. I don't even want to put you in a position of having to pick which one you rather live in. That's what I'm asking. On a scale of 1 to 100, the 3 different systems, a pure communism system, like what we've seen in the world, a pure fascist system, like we've seen in the world, or a pure.
Oh, you don't have to be mean. I'll be mean for you. Yeah, that's what I want my audience to do. Bro, I can barely hear him.
That's what I'm asking. You're asking, would you want to live in a Nazi system?
I'm not asking. I don't even want to put you in a position of having to pick which one you rather live in. That's what I'm asking. On a scale of 1 to 100, the 3 different systems, a pure communism system, like what we've seen in the world, a pure fascist system, like we've seen in the world, or a pure.
It's going to depend on the country, my guy. It really is going to depend on the fact that you say take into consideration. You're asking. Wait, can I want to get clarity on what you're. I don't know what you're asking.
On a scale of 1 to 100,
we just need to slow down. I need to understand what you're asking, right?
All right. The question is.
Let's take it slowly. So
I am taking slowly. You keep interrupting me. My question is, on a scale of 1 to 100, 1 being the best and 100 being the worst, where would you rank a system like fascism, communism, and Nazism? Because in my mind, I would rank all 3 of those as 100. Because all 3 of those are
100 being the worst.
Yes, 100 being the worst. Yeah. All 3 of those are illiberal systems, and what they're not maybe because there's 3 of them. It's 3 sides of a fucking weird ass 3-sided die. They're all the fucking same. It's just a different flavor of who's being persecuted, who's being killed, who's being pogromed, who's being put in camps. It's all fucking the same. And I don't understand this weird mindset. I guess because we never went to war with them. Luckily, they only just killed tens of millions of their own fucking people, so who gives a shit? But I don't understand how we're able to have people pretend to be fucking Mao, like they're LARPing. In my mind, there should be no difference in dressing up on stage as Mao and dressing up on stage as Hitler. They're one and the same. I think it's fucking disgusting how we're allowing.
You want to keep purchasing or do you want to answer your question?
Well, it seems that you could understand it, so I want to give you a little.
No, I still don't understand it. So you asked, you want me to rank them in terms of evil. Wait, you want me to rank them 1 to 100? So I need to understand what you're asking. Is it okay if we pick it apart to make sure we understand it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so you're asking me on a scale of 1 to 100, where 100 is the worst. How do you rank these different ideologies? And by rank here, you just mean in terms of evilness, I'm guessing, right?
If you want to use the term evil, sure.
I want to know what you mean. You're asking the question.
Which one? I don't. It's hard to answer this question because I gave my example and exactly my rationale for my answer.
Oh no!
I don't understand how you can be so you cannot understand what I'm saying. So I don't know how to break it down.
You're asking me to rank things 1 to 100. I need to know on what basis I'm ranking it.
What do you
think? Is that a fair question? I proposed one. I said I assume that you're asking me in terms of how evil it is.
Okay, what do you find as evil then? Bad. Yes, evil.
Yeah, bad will not occur. Yeah, that's why I offered that.
Bad for somebody who's living there. Not a good system to live in.
Oh, that's okay. So then that's the difference. You're asking me where I would live or what I think is most evil.
Let's go with the first one first. Let's see what that.
Okay, what's most evil? And when you say what's most evil, you mean independent of whether or not the country's going to go to war, independent of the peculiarities of a given place. You want me to just assess it on ideology alone?
Sure.
Correct?
Sure.
Okay. Then I would put Nazi at 100. I would think that even Marxist-Leninism is not as bad as Nazism. Nazism as an ideology by itself includes this desire for war and conquest and the Lebensraum, which necessitated a war in...
So they both socialists and liberals? Who are you? Pisco and this guy? Oh no, you're still talking to hybrid Ethan. How many people did capitalism killed? At least 100 bajillion.
Ideological concept of communism includes an entire worldwide revolution that includes violence and war.
It's not entailed by it, no.
What do you mean?
Marxist-Leninism
isn't that a natural end result?
You're asking me to assess the ideologies in and of themselves, just as themselves.
See,
and I think
wait. This is, I think, also one of the big problems. One of the big problems here is that
Sorry.
I would think that even Marxist-Leninism is not as bad as Nazism. Nazism as an ideology by itself includes this desire for war and conquest and the Lebensraum, which necessitated
welcome back, Gamer Jam.
In
ideological concept of communism includes an entire worldwide revolution that includes violence and war.
It's not entailed by it, no.
What do you mean?
Marxist-Leninism is not...
An entire worldwide revolution that something violence?
Ideological concept of communism includes an entire worldwide revolution that includes violence and war.
It's not entailed by it, no.
That includes violence for it. I think by strictly what I understand Marxist-Leninism to be that it is violent revolution, dictatorship of the proletariat. That's generally what people mean by it, at least. But I don't think I don't think that alone entails it's worse than Nazism or anything, right? Because you could imagine even semi-violent revolutions being not nearly as bad as like what full-on Nazism would do. But
no, what do you mean? Marxist-Leninism
Isn't that a natural end result?
You're asking me to assess the ideologies in and of themselves, just as themselves.
See,
and I think
wait. This is, I think, also one of the big problems. One of the big problems here is that, like I said, I answered the question. I would rank all of them as 100 because they're all terrible.
Yeah, I'm saying that I think Nazism is worse than Marxist-Leninism.
Okay, I think they're equally bad, and that's the view that I think more people should take. And I think that's my main argument here. Because
Okay.
I think people
Can reasonable minds disagree about whether Nazism is just as bad or a little more bad than communism? Is this really what we're debating?
No, I'm trying to say that they're all equally as bad.
They're all bad. I'm not Marxist-Leninist.
No,
They're bad.
one's worse than the other. I'm saying they're both 100. They're both 100. They're equally bad.
Both equal.
The same.
Okay, so then should we have gone to war? Should we not have gone to war on the side of Stalin? I mean, I don't know. Should we have made war with Stalin instead of having him as an ally?
I mean, we should have in 1939 when they invaded Poland alongside Germany. But we didn't because luckily we were staying on the sidelines, just paying the British and giving them equipment until
Is this what this is all about? So clearly, I think Marxist-Leninism and Stalin is bad, right? We're just doing this. We're just like, he thinks Nazism is worse, but I think it's equal. That's what we're debating.
Because you wouldn't for a second ever think of like allowing a Nazi in your tent. And I think that, in my opinion, you should treat a
What do you mean let in tent?
what do you mean? Yeah, I was gonna say, of course.
You think I'm cool with Marxist-Leninists running in primaries?
You're cool with the DSA.
So you think I'm okay?
Kill me. Are you asking me or a hybrid heathen? I mean, I think most people generally would not have the same understanding of what those terms mean that I do. But this guy, man, yeah. Peace Corps could answer the question. Listen, there are like times where I think Peace Corps should do that. And like, I don't know. I mean, I do think, like, I do understand wanting clarity. But like, probably Peace Corps generally knew that when he said like rank these ideologies like, 1 to 100 or whatever, like probably he knew the type of thing he was looking for was like whether or not Peace Corps viewed communism and Nazism as which one he viewed as worse or whether or not they were equal. I don't know. But like generally, I think it's good to ask for clarity. It's good to be specific about things. Sometimes people are not prepared for the Philbro Discord debates. Ask yourself in Avi style that Peace Corps does, but I don't know. All right, folks. I finna go play some Lucio ball. I like Peace Corps style. I generally like Peace Corps style, and I think Peace Corps was very good at tracking conversations, tracking exactly the claims, and doing that type of thing. I think he's very good at that, and being articulate at least when he says it. He's not always concise. I was gonna say concise, but yeah, sometimes I'm jealous of the ability. But yeah, I'm finna go read and play Lucio Ball. I should stream again tomorrow. I don't think I got anything. It's really bad. Had to unsub. Oh boy. Yeah, I should stream again tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna read. I'll see if I can get reach out to that girl that David was talking to and the Will Talks dude. I'll ask David if he would see if any of them are interested in talking to me, and then maybe the people I was talking to TikTok earlier, at least one of them or whatever. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, okay. Love streaming. Love you guys watch me stream. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will stream again tomorrow, probably, hopefully. If not, the day after I will. And head over to Tomfoolery, I guess. Good night, bro. 07. Yeah. See you later, guys. I appreciate it.